of the state visit. But now that the champagne fizz has gone away, reality bites. The hangover is here, and it's the same old chaos on the beaches.
Yes, it is. I mean, you know, as Mark White there says eloquently, 800 coming in, one leaving today. Of course, Sir Keir Starmer said this is a proof of concept idea. He told us at Chequers for that press conference they want to ramp this up. Mark White thinks maybe 40 this month. We're nowhere near that figure at all. And indeed, we're seeing almost a mirror image of what happened with the Rwanda plan. Again, 2 individuals sent to Rwanda to prove to courts here it was a safe country. But the last Tory government ran out of time when they called the election early. Some would say, why do that? Well, they did it. We hear from Donald Trump, though, at that overnight on Fox TV, as well as the press conference. On Fox TV last night, he said, you have people coming in, and I told the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, I would stop it, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military. That's the question, I think, for Sir Keir Starmer. Would he start to go a bit more radical and tackle this problem? Because I think the fate of his government, frankly, hangs on his ability or his inability to stop the boats.
Chris Hope, let's be blunt. Sir Keir Starmer, the ultimate human rights lawyer, he literally wrote the book on the ECHR and how it's deployed, particularly Article 8, the right to a family life.
You wrote a guide on it.
Yeah, but he literally listens. He knows it inside out. The notion that Sir Keir Starmer is going to demand to deploy the Royal Navy, I put it to you, there's more chance of you flying to America without an airplane.
Well, what he's facing, I think, is a real moment, I think. Unless it seems just tickling... He believes in the international law, the rules-based system of negotiating returns deals, one in, one out deals with France, returns deals with other countries, rather than some big idea, which, frankly, his opponents are trying to advocate for. Reform UK, leave the European Convention on Human Rights, rip it up, ditch the Article 8 you described there and do something else. And the Tory party, too, expected in their October conference. I think it's fascinating, and it's now. I think the idea of patriotism is one which we're increasingly exploring on GBNews on how you can protect this country. On my podcast, I've talked to Claire Fox, Baroness Fox, and she's talked to me about the issue of flags. Why are people putting flags on lampposts? It's all about, in her mind, the idea of community. And here's what she told me for GB News.
I mean, there's a kind of form of snobbery that's basically anti-working class as we would have understood it. And even when they don't understand, like, why Nigel Farage is so popular, they kind of look at him and think, oh, he's such a kind of uncouth type. You know, why would anyone like him when we've got all these... I actually find it despicable. And I do think that the reason why people feel like they are strangers in their own land is that they realise that the traditions, the culture, the history and the background, ordinary people are trying to fight back. By the way, I think it's just a very positive thing. Putting the flags up is a way for people to express some form of solidarity with each other. And a lot of the people who are involved in putting up the flags are also saying, we want to rebuild civic bonds in our community. And they actually say things like, oh, yeah, we also help out at the local food bank, or we're helping do litter pickups, and so on and so forth. So there's something about those people who've been marginalised and thrown out to the side of society, treated like dirt, basically, and looked down on, saying, no, we want to rebuild a pride in the place that we're from.
Re-own your flag.
Take back control.
Or don't.
You have it, Claire Fox, Take Back Control of the Flag. A really fascinating listen on Chopper's Political Podcast this week. And stay tuned, by the way, viewers and listeners. 4 o'clock, we're hoping to put the idea of deploying the military in the Channel to the Armed Forces Minister, Al Khan's.
Beautiful stuff, Chris. As ever, thank you very, very much for hotfooting it here from Paddington. Let's get my next guest in now. Delighted to be joined by the former Director General of Border Force, Tony Smith. Tony, welcome to the show. I understand you've been recovering from surgery. You're obviously bouncing around and you're back to full health. Great to see you back here on GB News. Thank you, my friend, and I hope you get back on your feet as soon as you can. Now then, I want to ask you, a lot of people have been saying for a long time, well, let's just send in the Royal Navy, deploy the boats. People like Lee Anderson say it all the time, but I suspect it's a bit more complicated than that.
Martin, I told you when I was there, you know, and even since I've retired and been back in there helping them out, it's always been a very good relationship between the agencies, whether that's the Border Force, Immigration Enforcement, the police and the military. We've all got our swim lanes. We've all got our roles to play. I work very closely with them on London 2012. We're a fantastic outfit when we're aligned together. But, you know, really, you've got to look at the legal... It's what I keep saying. You've got to look at the legal framework. And as we go to war with France, There ain't any difference whether that boat is a Border Force boat or a Royal Naval vessel. They will still be bound by the same laws that we are, which is that once somebody gets within our range, under the law of the sea, we're obliged to pick them up, Martin. And unless someone can change that law, and that means ministers, governments coming in and doing what they say, whatever it takes, if they are going to do whatever it takes, they're not doing whatever it takes. It takes a fundamental change in our legislative framework, in our infrastructure and our operational responses to actually tackle this and stop it. It'd be a huge task, but I'm afraid that we're just not doing it. And the migrants know this, the smugglers know this. You guys are going to be, I think as Mark's saying now, there's going to be a break in the weather now for them. They have been really lucky last couple of weeks, Martin, but tell you what, if there's going to be a few days like this is going to really hit the government very, very hard when they're trying to get all these announcements out about smashing the gangs and one-to-one deals. This is not going to look good at all for them.
And Tony Smith, the irony about being an island is that during World War II, it made it very easy to defend because we could put bombs in the channel. We could defend our beaches with tank breaks and with barbed wire, but you can't do that in peacetime. Donald Trump can talk tough about the military. He has a land border. You can man a land border with troops and resources, but we're very, very different here in the UK, being a maritime nation.
Yeah, in peacetime, Martin, maritime borders are the hardest of all. They're harder than the border. I've been down there, the southern border, with those guys, fantastic. Border Patrol. He did send a load of military down there to help them out when he got elected. That's great. I mean, there's more of them now, but they're not getting through the southern border anymore, mainly because he changed his policy. He signed an executive order so he can't claim asylum down here anymore. We haven't done anything like that. We've done nothing to say that these people can't claim asylum. We've said that you still can claim asylum once you get within the range of us, and you are obliged to pick them up under international law because look at the state of them. They're going to drown, and if they drown, it'll be your fault. And we do not want to be held, Border Force, military, anyone else, culpable for homicide, for people drowning. This is a real problem, but until we get to grips with that legal framework, then all these people should be safely brought ashore, detained and deported immediately from the country. And people start seeing that happening, which is what Trump is advocating he's going to be doing over in America. Until we start seeing that happening, mate, we're not going to stop these boats, I'm afraid, and it's going to be a terrible year for us, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Tony Smith, it's great to have you back, and I suspect we'll be having the same conversation, same time next week. Always a pleasure. Tony Smith, the former Director General of Border Force. Great to have you back on the show. And moving on, breaking news from early this afternoon, a short while ago, a British couple released by the Taliban have arrived in Doha. Let's get GBNews' national reporter Charlie Peters on board now to tell us more. Charlie, bring us up to speed.
Well, Martin, Barbie and Peter Reynolds, they're British nationals. They're also dual nationals. They have Afghan citizenship, and they've been in the country for the best part of the last 2 decades, running charity programmes to support people in the country. And they rejected an offer to be repatriated to Britain by the British authorities in the August of 2021, when the Taliban Islamic Emirate regime recaptured the country after 2 decades of Western-led, government-backed control. Now, they said they didn't want to go because they didn't want to leave the country at its greatest time of need. And Barbie Reynolds, who, despite being a woman who worked and was involved in education through her charity, she was given an award by the Taliban and permitted to continue that work. But something clearly soured in that relationship and approval from the Taliban, with the couple being arrested as they returned to their home in central Afghanistan on the 1st of February this year. Now, we still don't know why they were held. We don't know what the charges were, and we have heard from members of the British government who are saying that they worked hard with the Qatari authorities, who operate regularly as a mediator in the Middle East, between a bridge from the West to more disparate regimes in Central and West Asia. But there were concerns that the conditions they were held in could have potentially put their lives at risk. Both the family members for Barbie and Peter Reynolds talking about them living in hellish conditions, with Peter Reynolds in particular. They're the top of that steps on the way down to the tarmac in Doha, referring to how he was chained to a prisoner in the Puri Chakri prison, the high-security prison in Afghanistan. A murderer who was screaming like a demon, he said, Meanwhile, Barbie, in her prison, was said to be surrounded by mice and cockroaches. The Reynolds describing how they were having limited meals, just one a day, and were also held in an underground Taliban interrogation location during that process. They've been together, this couple, since the 1960s, and the period they were in prison was the longest in which they'd been separated throughout that period together. Now, they married in Kabul, in the Afghan capital, in 1970, but here they are in Qatar, reunited once again.
Thank you, Charlie Peters, for bringing us up to speed there on that dramatic set free there of that British couple, Peter and Barbie Reynolds. Thank you, Charlie. Always a pleasure. Okay, up next, don't go anywhere, because Donald Trump attacks Sadiq Khan after answering a question from our very own Bev Turner. Let's take a listen.
I think the mayor of London, Khan, is among the worst mayors in the world.
Beautiful stuff from our Bev Turner. She'll join me on the show later on. More on that next. We are Britain's News Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:27. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News on this magnificent Friday afternoon. Now, Donald Trump has claimed he got London Mayor Sadiq Khan banned from attending the state banquet in Windsor Castle on Wednesday evening. And he gave this exclusive answer to GB News' very own Late Show Live host Bev Turner on Air Force One yesterday.
Events in England, a state visit, spectacular. Right. And yet the Mayor of London can't be there.
I didn't want him there. I asked that he not be there. I don't want them. I think the Mayor of London, Khan, is among the worst mayors in the world. And we have some bad ones. if you look at Chicago, but I think he's the equivalent of the mayor of Chicago. I think he's done a terrible job. Crime in London is through the roof. The mayor of London, Mayor Khan, has done a terrible job. And on immigration, he's a disaster. Now, I asked that he not be there. He wanted to be there, as I understand. I didn't want him. I've not liked him for a long time. I just think, I have a certain pride in London and UK. My mother was born in Scotland, as you know. And when I see Mayor Khan do a bad job, the stabbings and the dirt and the filth, it's not the same. No, I didn't want him there.
Well, that's our Bev Turner once again getting the best quotes out of the President of the free world. And joining me now is the leader of the Conservatives in the London Assembly, Susan Hall. Susan, always a pleasure to have your company. Well, Donald Trump seemed to spell it out there. He said that Sadiq Khan is one of the worst mayors in the entire world. Would you agree with that?
100%. He's a dreadful mayor. We know that, Martin. He's absolutely dreadful. If you look at the fact that the police are desperate for more money, they're £260 million short. If you look at the stuff that's come out today about the LTNs, the low traffic neighbourhoods, reports from TfL showing that it really hasn't made any difference to car usage, etc. And that report was buried. There was a whole load of stuff around ULEZ that was buried because it was showing that actually the outer London one made no difference. I mean, he's a dreadful mayor. All he's concerned about is keeping his particular electorate happy. He hates the flags, which is why I sort of waved one on Wednesday night. Whether he was invited or not, or would have been invited to the thing with Trump, I doubt it, because in 2018, he allowed that dreadful baby big balloon going up, showing Trump as a baby. Do you remember? I mean, that was appalling. It's absolutely appalling. He's an elected president of the United States, the most powerful man in the West, and he allows that sort of thing to go on in London. The man is a disgrace.
OK, Susan Hall, I'm joined by our political editor, Chris Hope. He's got a question for you.
I mean, Susan Hall, of course, you were how are you, Susan Hall? You were a candidate, weren't you, against Sadiq Khan? You were a candidate, you would say that, wouldn't you? Viewers might be shouting at their TV or listening to their radio. Look at the figures.
Fair enough.
Theft from the person is down 13%, that the Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime says. Robberies of personal property down 13%, and also burglary is down 10%. Yes, of course, other problems elsewhere with violent crimes, but surely the record is showing it's getting better in London under this mayor.
Rape is up, gun ownership or gun crime is up. He'll always cherry pick, and sometimes if you look at the figures, Chris, he'll say it's down in the under 25, so as opposed to in general. So you always have to look at what he says and dig a bit deeper, and you'll find that the figures are correct in that respect, but it's limited to the under 25s or whatever else. I mean, he's just a spin merchant. And yes, to be fair, I would say that, but I genuinely believe it. He doesn't like all the flags. He doesn't like the Britishness. He doesn't, he doesn't embrace all of Londoners.
OK, Susan Hall. Susan Hall, we're going to have to leave it there. Sadiq Khan banned from the steak banquet. No doubt he won't be inviting you around anytime soon for a fish supper either. Thank you very much, Susan Hall, for joining us on the show. Always an absolute pleasure. Now, a source close to Sadiq Khan has hit back at Donald Trump's blast, saying this: Trump's politics is one of fear and division. This includes talking down our great capital city. London is a global success story. It's open, it's dynamic, and it's safer than most major US cities. And from Monday, we're bringing you more major coverage of events from America and news from the White House when our new show, The Late Show Live, launches in Washington, D.C., of course, hosted by the beautiful, magnificent Bev Turner and also with Ben Leo. There's more stuff to come between now and 4 o'clock, including the Prime Minister finds himself in yet more hot water as 54% of voters say it's time for him to go. An exclusive poll for GBNews. That's next. What do you think? More on that in just a tick. But first, it's...
Thanks, Martin. Good afternoon to you. Our headlines. GB News can reveal at least 800 asylum seekers have been attempting to cross the English Channel today. Border Force says it has been braced for a significant day of small boat activity. An Eritrean man's become the second migrant to be deported to France under the one-in, one-out deal after losing a High Court bid to have his removal temporarily blocked. A British couple freed by the Taliban after nearly 8 months in captivity have been reunited with their daughter during emotional scenes in Qatar. Barbie and Peter Reynolds, who had lived in Afghanistan for nearly 2 decades, were released earlier as a result of Qatari mediation. The UK and Irish governments have released a new agreement on how killings from the Northern Ireland Troubles should be investigated. Ireland's Deputy Prime Minister Simon Harris has described the new deal as a day and night improvement on the current measures. And the US has for the 6th time vetoed a draft resolution at the UN Security Council that would have demanded an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages. The US says the text didn't go far enough in condemning Hamas or recognising Israel's right to defend itself. Those are your headlines. More coming up for you at 4 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, there will be some spells of rain for some, with a Met Office warning in force across northern and western parts of the UK, and feeling chillier for all as we head towards Sunday. Back to this afternoon and this evening, though, it's been quite warm across parts of the south and southeast, but where we see this frontal system lingering across parts of the north, that's where we'll see lingering cloud and also some outbreaks of rain. And this system will slowly edge its way southeastwards, pushing more into Wales and southwest England through the course of the night. We could see some quite heavy bursts of rain associated with this feature. Remaining mostly dry across parts of the south and southeast, just a few showers clipping into the far northwest. With plenty of cloud around, it's going to be a mostly mild night, temperatures dropping to around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Then to begin the weekend, mostly dry, but there are going to be some showers. These could be quite blustery at times, particularly across the far north and northwest of Scotland. Also some just starting to push into western coasts of Wales. Otherwise, Northern Ireland largely dry. But Northern England, parts of Wales and southwest England, it is going to be a very wet start with some heavy downpours expected at times. And it's across these areas where we do have a Met Office rain warning in force, so a chance we could see some impacts due to localised flooding. Across the far southeast, though, remaining dry here for longest, even some bright spells across Sussex and Kent, parts of East Anglia, and a mix of sunny spells and showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for many across England and Wales, it is going to be a very wet start to the weekend. Not feeling quite as mild as it did this afternoon, but temperatures still reaching around 23 degrees Celsius across the southeast. Through into the evening, there's still going to be outbreaks of rain. The weather warning still in force. This system eventually pushing its way into the North Sea, but it could turn quite blustery as it does so. Feeling a lot chillier from Sunday onwards. We might even start to see some frost into next week, but it should remain mostly dry next week with plenty of sunny spells.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The northbound entry slip at junction 45 on the A1M in Leeds is closed due to a collision. In Lancashire, a broken down vehicle on the M6 southbound between junctions 36 and 35 is causing delays. In Peterborough, the A1 northbound between the A47 and A43 has lane closures due to a collision. Congestion on the A3003 eastbound between the A30 and A358 is causing delays. The A43 northbound in Northamptonshire adds 10 minutes to your journey. And on the trains, major disruptions affect the Elizabeth Line and Great Western Railway services between London, Paddington and Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. It's 3:37 on this beautiful Friday afternoon. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Prime Minister is under yet more pressure as a poll out today has shown that people are not backing the Prime Minister whatsoever. And new polling from Electoral Calculus also reveals that Reform have an 18% lead over the Labour Party. Well, I'm joined in the studio by the founder of Electoral Calculus, Martin Baxter. Martin, always an absolute pleasure. So first of all, let's get to an exclusive poll you've done for GB News on Sir Keir Starmer's leadership and the public's faith in him It's not looking very good.
Good afternoon, Martin. We asked the public a simple question: should Keir Starmer remain as Prime Minister or resign? And over the whole public, 54% said he should resign, 20% said he should stay, and the rest didn't know. So as a majority of the public think he should go. But obviously that includes his political opponents, Conservative and Reform supporters and other parties. Also, more interestingly, we looked at what Labour voters, people who voted Labour in 2024, said. They were obviously much more enthusiastic about Keir Starmer, but only to a degree. 50% on our figures, 50% of Labour voters thought Keir Starmer was the right man for the job as Prime Minister. 26% didn't know, were scratching their heads a bit, wondering, maybe, maybe not. And 24% of Labour voters thought he should resign. So only about half of Labour voters have confidence in Keir Starmer as Prime Minister, which is, it's not the worst figures it could be, but it's not very good figures. So it establishes or reaffirms the fact that Keir Starmer is not so popular with the public or indeed with Labour Party voters.
54% saying he should go. If it's 52% like Brexit, you'd probably say, oh, let's have 3 votes and go again and campaign for 3 years against it. I digress. It's grim reading for him. It sincerely is. Meanwhile, a new poll out today from Find Out Now has Reform with a record 18 points clear of the Labour Party on 34%. But Martin Banks, what you do so wonderfully for us here at GB News, you combine across the week's polls to get a more accurate figure. What does that show us?
Yes, we like this. Yes, this Find Out Now poll shows a Reform lead of 18%. We think it's a little more helpful to take an average of recent polls, including that Find Out Now poll, but also polls by other pollsters. We find not a similar picture, frankly. A Reform lead of 12%, which is still very big historical terms. We've got on the poll of polls Reform on 32%, Labour behind on 19, less than 20, and the Conservatives on 17%. And when we translate that into seats, that's a whopping majority for Nigel Farage's Reform UK party, 403 seats we calculate, which would be a Reform majority of 156, bigger than Tony Blair and Keir Starmer last year. Labour less than 100 seats on 93. Liberals on 62 and the Conservatives reduced to 5th place on 27.
That's actually a lot better than the Find Out Now poll. It had the Labour Party on 44 seats. That's just extinction level event.
If it were, yes, if it were an 18% lead, and it might be, Find Out Now might be right on that. If it were, that would be terrible for Labour. But even taking the, doing the grown-up thing and looking at the average rather than just a single poll, it still looks awful for Labour and very good for Reform at the moment.
And Martin Baxter, as well as amalgamating this week's polls, and by the way, I thought what was fascinating about this week's poll, particularly the Find Out Now poll, the polling was carried out during the state visit. Now, ordinarily, you'd expect there to be a polling boost for a premier, hosting a president, the pomp, the pageantry, Windsor Castle. That hasn't happened for Keir Starmer. So far, there's been no upward tick in him being seen as an international statesman.
Yes, so far that's the case. I mean, it could be that amongst Labour voters or centre-left voters, Donald Trump is not perhaps the most popular American president, so a big meeting with him maybe doesn't play so well with the public. Although Keir Starmer, on the whole, had a fairly good 2 days. Nothing went wrong, so diplomatically it was successful, but politically it may not have achieved very much.
But it is fascinating to consider that perhaps hobnobbing with a man that a lot of Labour voters, let's be frank, probably don't like very much, could potentially backfire. And it might not gel with people who vote Reform. They might not necessarily believe that Keir Starmer's heart is in it. Martin, you've got a third graphic for us now, one I find the most fascinating in many ways. This is the geographical split. If we look at the electoral map of if your poll of polls became real, look at that. It's a turquoise tidal wave. Talk us through it.
Yes, well, as you say, a lot of the light blue of Reform sweeping the country through the Red Wall in the north, even the northern urban areas like Liverpool and Manchester and into Yorkshire, through the Midlands and indeed large chunks of the south. Only sort of central London remains as a Labour stronghold, and the SNP obviously doing better in Scotland on these figures. Reform are doing quite well in Scotland, but not enough to take a lot of seats yet.
And what's really fascinating, there was a by-election in Cardiff overnight, and Cardiff is down as a die-hard Labour seat. They slipped 31 percentile in Cardiff. Reform put on 39 9%. Cardiff has gone to Reform Award there for the first time ever. We're seeing Plaid Cymru doing well, but really the Conservatives being forced out. Labour Party, once again, the pattern we see week in, week out, Martin Beck. So Labour being forced back into city centres, into university towns, and the provinces being swept by that turquoise tidal wave. Martin Baxter, thank you as ever for joining us and bringing us fully up to speed. Always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you very, very much indeed. Lots more still to come to it now, 4 o'clock, including one Hertsmere council that has some choice words for those involved in Operation Raise the Colours. What on earth was he thinking? But at first, if you're searching some holiday sun, then here is the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hot weather continues across the Canaries. It will turn a little cooler here into next week. Plenty of fine and sunny weather for Greece and Turkey, although a bit of a brisk breeze blowing across some of the Greek islands. Lots of sunshine too for Italy during the weekend, and indeed for much of eastern and southern Spain. But we will see increasing cloud and some showers over northern Spain and northern Portugal during Saturday afternoon. It is hot in Tenerife, but those temperatures just dipping off a little bit into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Liz Mitchell, MBE, gracing us with her presence on the soap this morning. Liz, so good to have you with us.
I am happy to be here.
You have the most incredible voice, the voice of a generation, the whole disco era. It is down to you. What do you think has made your songs so timeless? I mean, everybody knows them, don't they?
Everybody knows them.
Everybody.
One thing I'm very grateful for is the temper of our music, because it seems to be very friendly, warming, and even our slow songs. I was playing one just the other day for my 2-year-old grandson, and he said, more. I was so happy.
I'm with him on that. There's a real sense with your music, though, that it is uplifting.
Yes.
And you feel happy listening to it. I mean, despite whatever it is you're singing about, almost, it's just there's a joy to it.
Yes, and that is really a gift, I think, that most artists would want to have, is that when they make their music that is lasting and that is bringing happiness to people. Because for me, that's the whole point of singing. You know, you should be able to make the people you're entertaining feel happy, hear something good, forget the pain for a moment and just want to dance and just feel good.
And Boney M music is all over TikTok, isn't it? It's being remixed all the time. How do you feel watching your music being reinvented like that?
It is really wonderful. This has been going on since the 90s, even before the 90s, people were remixing our songs. So it's the uniqueness of the vocals, because that's what is given to them, just the plain vocals, and then they put new music on it, and it still sounds like Boney M.
The People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 3:48 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, before we begin this next story, we'll be using some strong language in order to convey the account of what happened, so cover your ears if you're easily offended. The story is astonishing, and it's this. The Labour leader of Hertsmere Borough Council has described those that put up the St George's flags and the Union flags out on lampposts as a bunch of criminals, extremists and nonces. Jeremy Newmark made these comments in response to the Tory councillor Brett Rosehill's question. Here it is.
Do you accept that by constantly linking our national flag to extremism, as you did in the question, or the answer to the question, as well as many Labour MPs at the moment, that you run the risk of letting extremists define it instead of reclaiming it for the mainstream?
Thank you, Councillor Rosehill. Councillor Newmark, please.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Rosehill, and I'm sorry, but I'm not playing. I won't be taking lectures on our national flag and extremism from a councillor that has the audacity to speak in almost glowing terms in his question to this council about Operation Raise the Colours. Operation Raise the Colours. An organised and orchestrated attempt by a bunch of criminals, extremists, nonces, to hijack our national flag.
I've watched that clip now at least half a dozen times. Every time I watch it, I think, what on earth was he thinking? Well, I'm joined now by somebody who was in the chamber at the time, and it's the Conservative councillor Alex Clarkson from Hertsmere Borough Council. Alex, welcome to the studio in Westminster. Thanks for coming
Martin.
on.
Thank you.
It was an astonishing video. You could hear the oxygen sucked out of the room. What on earth was he thinking?
It's unbelievable. And one of those gasps that you just heard in that clip was myself. I mean, I must pay tribute actually to Councillor Brett Rosehill. You know, Charlie Kirk said courage is what you stand up for, what you believe in, and that councillor did, as did our group leader. All he did was say, listen, there's some flags in Tower Hamlets and Birmingham that are coming down. Isn't this an example of two-tier? Look how he was treated. It's typical of the Labour, both in Hertsmere and I believe in the country as a whole.
Later on, I'm going to be joined by one of the national organisers of Operation Raise the Colours, and let me tell you this, he's utterly livid. He's a businessman, he's a family man. You know, he's been called a Nazi, he's been called a fascist, he's been called a racist, but even he was gobsmacked that it would be even a good idea to go down this route. What's been the reaction in the local area?
Well, look, you know, in Boreham Wood, there's flags flying from lampposts and indeed across Hertsmere. And that's the thing. If you look at that, you know, the march about kind of uniting the kingdom, you know, there was families, there was like toddlers in prams, there was pensioners, you know, having actually almost a picnic. I mean, there was the odd, you know, there's some odd violence. But if you look, Notting Hill Carnival's had more arrests. The Palestinian March earlier in September, more arrests. This is just typical of Labour's virtue signalling and the duplicity. You're all right. They're bang on about diversity inclusion, but only if you agree with them.
Weren't we told that after 14 years of Tory division and chaos, we'd have the adults back in control? Weren't we told that the Be Kind brigade are those from the left? All I've been seeing, certainly since the Raise the Colours campaign started, is the politics of division. The words banded around like Nazi, fascist, racist, white supremacist. It's been astonishing. Even I wasn't prepared for them to use the word nonce.
No, absolutely. It's disgusting, and I think they should be ashamed of themselves. Look, people are concerned. The way of life is changing. There is pressure on local services. They are valid things to be concerned about. Look how you were moved to tears about that poem that girl came on. You know, there's a case to be made, and it's a case that, as Conservatives, you know, we've got unionists in our title for a reason as well. We will stand up for British values, and that includes flying the flag. Listen, I'd tell everyone in Boreham Wood, you know, buy that flagpole, put it in your front and back garden, hang it from out the window. It's a flag that unites this country. It's a flag we should be proud of.
Why is it, and I ask people from the Labour Party this all the time when they come in, why is it that they do seem to be ashamed of our flags? What's driving it?
Do you know what? I think they lost the political argument when the Cold War came down. You know, the world didn't choose socialism, so they go through identity politics. They go through our national identity to try and push their kind of wokey left argument. But it's unravelling now. You know, a few years ago, if you and I were having this conversation, we didn't, you know. But you can see now this issue is coming into the political mainstream. People are literally and metaphorically showing their pride for this country. And I think they do it because they divide and rule. And, you know, you're now seeing, I think, you know, they bang on about extreme right, and that's what we were labelled in that chamber Wednesday night. Yeah. Watch out for the far left. They're on the rise. We saw it in its extreme form. You know, someone who stood up to them, they couldn't beat him in debate, they silenced him forever.
I think it's the far left this country needs to watch out for.
Do you know, I had that conversation with Lord Wolney several times in past weeks. I had it since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I think something is going on. It's born of an intolerance. It's born of a sense of superiority. Has there been any incidents in your manor of people taking flags down?
Do you know what there has? There's been comments, comments online. We get lots of emails from residents, actually, and I've had lots that people are genuinely concerned. Here's the proof. There was a by-election in this area at the moment. It was a Labour seat. The Conservatives won it. We stopped the reform surge. The Labour vote slumped by 34%. So there's the clearest indication that actually Labour's values aren't chiming with residents' values. No, there's no flags come down yet. The Liberal Democrats who run Hertfordshire want to take them down. They're unnecessary, but we'll fight against that. And I have a feeling that if they're taken down, they'll be put up the next day, not by extremist criminals, the stuff that Newmark branded people who are proud of this country are, but just by regular people who believe in the country.
Councillor Alex Clarkson, thanks for joining us today, coming from Hartsmith, Sears and Westminster. A pleasure to have your company. Now, we approached the Labour Party and Councillor Jeremy Newmark, who made these comments, but neither of them have got back to us as yet. And let me tell you this, Jeremy Newmark, if you're out there, you'd like to come on the show, you are absolutely my guest. Tell us why you hold these opinions. There's an empty chair for you waiting right here. Hope to see you later on in the show. Now, coming up, we were promised 1 in, 1 out by the Labour Party, but so far it's 800 in and 2 out. It's yet more border fast down on the coast. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, there will be some spells of rain for some, with a Met Office warning in force across northern and western parts of the UK, and feeling chillier for all as we head towards Sunday. Back to this afternoon and this evening, though, it's been quite warm across parts of the south and southeast, but where we see this frontal system lingering across parts of the north, that's where we'll see lingering cloud and also some outbreaks of rain. And this system will slowly edge its way southeastwards, pushing more into Wales and southwest England through the course of the night. We could see some quite heavy bursts of rain associated with this feature. Remaining mostly dry across parts of the south and southeast, just a few showers clipping into the far northwest. With plenty of cloud around, it's going to be a mostly mild night, temperatures dropping to around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Then to begin the weekend, mostly dry, but there are going to be some showers. These could be quite blustery at times, particularly across the far north and northwest of Scotland. Also some just starting to push into western coasts of Wales. Otherwise, Northern Ireland largely dry. But northern England, parts of Wales and southwest England, it is going to be a very wet start with some heavy downpours expected at times. And it's across these areas where we do have a Met Office rain warning in force, so a chance we could see some impacts due to localised flooding. Across the far southeast, though, remaining driest here for longest, even some bright spells across Sussex and Kent, parts of East Anglia, and a mix of sunny spells and showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for many across England and Wales, it is going to be a very wet start to the weekend. Not feeling quite as mild as it did this afternoon, but temperatures still reaching around 23 degrees Celsius across the southeast. Through into the evening, there's still going to be outbreaks of rain. The weather warning's still in force. This system eventually pushing its way into the North Sea, but it could turn quite blustery as it does so. Feeling a lot chillier from Sunday onwards. We might even start to see some frost into next week, but it should remain mostly dry next week with plenty of sunny spells.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Challenges persist across various roads. On the M25 clockwise, an accident between junctions 3 and 4 causes lane closures. In Lancashire, heavy congestion on the M6 southbound around junction 36 results in a 40-minute delay. In Leeds, the A1M northbound entry slip at junction 45 is closed due to a collision. In Buckinghamshire, the M25 faces delays because of a broken down vehicle between junction 16 and 17. And on the trains, the Elizabeth Line and Great Western Railway face major disruption between London Paddington and Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you on this beautiful Friday afternoon. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News. We're broadcasting live across the UK with all the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on today's show. We were promised one in, one out by the Labour Party, and yet on the day that one solitary Eritrean was finally flown to Paris, 800 illegal immigrants steamed ashore into Britain on a so-called Star Marder of dinghies. It's another day, another border farce for Sir Keir Starmer. And the Labour Council leader drew gasps of disbelief when he claimed that the patriotic organisers of Operation Raise the Colours are a bunch of criminals and extremists, and even compared them to paedophiles. I'll be joined by one of the flag-raising movement's founders later on in today's show for his astonished reaction. And Donald Trump has blasted Sadiq Khan as among the worst mayors in the world and revealed he banned Khan from the Royal Banquet. But is the London mayor really that bad? Well, I'll be joined by GB News' Bev Turner live from Washington with her first interview since she stole the show. And government lawyers have advised 150 SAS veterans not to engage with the government witch hunt after 2 of their regiments were arrested for historic killings in Afghanistan. On today's show, I'll be joined by an SAS hero who says this witch hunt has to stop. And breathtaking, poetic and simply stunning were just a few of the plaudits poured upon a London photographer's pictures from last weekend's Unite the Kingdom March. As you can see on your screen now, magnificent images viewed millions of times globally, with fans including Elon Musk. I'll be joined in the studio by the man behind the lens. Welcome to the show. Well, it's the morning after the night before Donald Trump has gone home, but it's the same old nightmare down on the beaches for Sir Keir Starmer. 800 in today and only managed to get 2 away so far on the so-called one in, one out deal. Those are the odds that the people smugglers will continue to think is worth risking. And an astonishing story on today's show. Operation Raise the Colours has gone nationwide, a blast of patriotic fervour, but one Labour councillor slammed the founders of it as criminals, and words I can't even repeat without a warning. You would not believe what's going on in Hertsmere Council. I'll be joined by one of the national organisers of Operation Raise the Colours, a businessman, a family man, who's simply astonished with the way he's been treated. You would not want to miss that. Get in touch, gbnews.com/you'll say is the way to do that. But first, it's time for your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. 4:02. Good afternoon to you. At least 800 migrants are crossing the English Channel in small boats today. People or smugglers around the Calais and Dunkirk areas pushed multiple dinghies out into the Channel at first light, following 9 days of windy weather, which prevented migrant crossings. Well, GB News counted more than 160 people being taken off the first Border Force vessel that arrived, and they were then led to the migrant processing facility in Dover Harbour. Hundreds more have or will arrive before the end of the day. They're the first migrants to reach the UK since 188 people made the crossing on the 10th of September. Now, the government says it will ramp up the number of returns to France after a second man was sent back under the one-in, one-out agreement earlier. The 25-year-old man from Eritrea lost a legal challenge to his removal. He now has 8 days to either claim asylum in France or return to his home country. Earlier this week, an Indian national became the first person to be sent to France under the pilot scheme in a case without a legal challenge. The Home Office says the scheme is designed to discourage small boat crossings, and the Justice Secretary David Lammy insists it's working.
This pilot with France is a milestone because it sends an immediate deterrence to people, many of them coming obviously across the water, that we will send them back, and it is our hope to see that grow over the coming months and years, because we have to bear down on the gangs and we have to smash the model effectively, and we have to ensure that those who do not have a right to be here are sent back to the countries from which they're from.
An elderly British couple released after being detained in Afghanistan for almost 8 months have landed safely in Qatar. There were emotional scenes in Doha as the 76-year-old Barbie Reynolds and her husband Peter, who's 80, were reunited with their daughter Sarah on the tarmac. They will now undergo medical checks in the Gulf state before returning to Britain. The Taliban said the couple, who'd lived in the country for 18 years, were arrested for breaking Afghan laws, although they did not provide further details. The couple were freed following mediation efforts led by Qatar. The British and Irish governments have released a new agreement on how killings linked to the Troubles should be investigated. It will include an overhaul of the commission that looks into deaths in Northern Ireland during the conflict. Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Hilary Benn, has described the new framework as an opportunity to deal with unfinished business of the Good Friday Agreement. And the Deputy Irish Prime Minister, Simon Harris, says the new deal is a night and day improvement on the current measures, adding the new package will provide maximum truth, justice and accountability to the victims. 2 ambulance trust workers have been arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. Wiltshire Police has announced an investigation following the deaths of 6 people. Both workers arrested were employed by the South Western Ambulance Service NHS Foundation Trust. The United States has, for a 6th time, vetoed a draft resolution at the UN Security Council that would have demanded an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages. The US Deputy Middle East Envoy Morgan Ortagus said the text didn't go far enough in condemning Hamas or in recognising Israel's right to defend itself. All 14 other members of the Security Council voted in favour of the draft resolution, which described the humanitarian situation in Gaza as catastrophic. It comes as the UN's Humanitarian Office warns the last lifelines for civilians are collapsing in Gaza City as Israel expands its military offensive. Finally, a group of researchers from the University of Kent have discovered tea can be grown in soil from the moon. Saplings planted in soil that mimics that on the lunar surface flourished, growing as well as trees planted in soil from Earth. However, saplings planted in a simulated lunar surface failed to grow, suggesting strongly that tea cannot be grown in space. Those are your latest headlines. I'll be back with more in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Quick look at the markets. The pound buys you $1.34 and 1.14 euros. The price of gold, £2,705 and 5 pence per ounce. FTSE 100 trading at 9,241 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, we were promised one in, one out by the Labour Party, and yet on the day that one solitary Eritrean was finally flown to Paris, 800 illegal immigrants steamed ashore into Britain, what many people are now calling a star marder of dinghies. Well, let's get to GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Mark White, you and I predicted this as sure as night follows day. We said the one in, one out deal will not be a deterrent to those making millions and millions of euros from the evil people smuggling trade, and that's precisely what's happened.
Yeah, the only deterrent is the weather, and we've had 9 days of bad weather in the Channel that's not allowed the people smugglers to push the boats out. Conditions calmed down overnight, and the waves in the Channel died down enough to let the first of those small boats to come. You're looking there at the Border Force vessel Typhoon, the first in this morning with 2 boatloads on board, 166 migrants. And I can tell you, Martin, that Typhoon is back out there heading into harbour once again with 2 more boatloads. So 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and still they come. As we speak, the Border Force vessel Ranger has just arrived into Dover Harbour with at least 1 boatload. They're being counted off by our producer Chris as we speak. And then behind that double load on Typhoon is the Border Force vessel Hurricane with yet another boatload of migrants. And then also, just to add misery onto those who watch this and with increasing alarm, the French Border Patrol vessels Riddens and Mink are in the Channel at the moment, making steady progress and not far now from the line into UK waters. So add another 2 boatloads to the totals that we're already seeing. We could, by the end of today, Martin, be up to about 1,000 that have crossed the English Channel.
Absolute nightmare for Sir Keir Starmer, but for us, it's Groundhog Day. Meanwhile, yesterday, Donald Trump said send in the military. Mark White, the only navy deployed in the Channel is the French Navy, giving these dinghies an escort into British waters.
Yes, you're right. You'll remember, of course, a few years back, we did have the Royal Navy deployed in the Channel, but that was because we were in a period where multiple small boats were landing on the Kent coast, and as a result migrants were disappearing off into the hinterland. Some were actually knocking on the doors of alarmed local residents demanding a lift somewhere or money for a taxi. So the military was called in to try to get a grip really of the command and control situation so that they had a better idea of what was crossing the Channel so that these boats could be intercepted before they made it to dry land. That they've been able to do now in the last few years. Very few boats ever make it to the UK coast. There was one earlier this month with just a few migrants on board. That made it because it was very murky conditions in the English Channel, but the vast majority are intercepted. I think what Donald Trump was getting at when he was saying call in the military, he was saying to Sir Keir Starmer, you just need to be more robust like the US is doing under Donald Trump in the States. You need to get a grip on a crisis that he says destroys a country from the inside out.
And Mark White, people looking at those precise images on our screen now will be inclined, I believe, to agree with President Trump. Mark White, grim news, but thanks for bringing it to us so wonderfully, as ever. Thanks for joining us on the show. Let's get more reaction now from GB News political editor Chris Hope here in the studio. Chris, I want to talk to you about your magnificent experience at the state visit. But before that, we have a serious political conundrum on the coast. Donald Trump saying deploy the military. Is there any chance that the British government might listen?
Yeah, that language there from Donald Trump yesterday. He told Fox News overnight, you have people coming in, and I told the Prime Minister, that's Sir Keir Starmer, I would stop it, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military. So the question today, right now, is will the UK government send in the military to stop the boats there, filmed by Mark White and his colleagues? And here's what Catherine Forster heard when she asked that question of Al Carnes, who's the Armed Forces Minister.
So I think this government is being more robust. And it's not lost on me that the small boat crossings must stop. It's an example would be if you're stood in a queue of Heathrow and someone were to barge out of the queue, jump through the passport control, jump into a taxi and drive away. The reality is individuals are breaking the law, coming to this country illegally, and we've got to find a workable cross-government solution to deal with the issue. Interestingly, I worked when I was in the military in 21-22. I helped Boris Johnson on some of the military activity we still see going on in the Channel now to help monitor and track cross-channel crossings. But it is a deeply complex issue that's riddled with legal pitfalls and traps.
So you say there is some military involvement at the moment. Can you detail what that is? What are the Navy doing, for instance, and how might we take that further potentially?
So in the past, the Navy has helped our Coast Guard and others to identify and track and monitor boat crossings coming across the Channel to ensure there's a reduced loss of life, because it is exceptionally dangerous. And of course, we've helped in the planning in the past in the early 20s to ensure that we had our full planning support behind the migration issue.
But you say the Navy have helped. Does that mean they're not helping now? And if not, why not? Is it just that we don't have the resources?
What I would say is, and there's a lot of people that come out with easy solutions or a proposition of an easy solution to a really complex problem. Let's think about a Navy vessel. A Navy vessel goes alongside a inflatable boat with 150 people in it and tries to offload them onto the Navy boat. Immediately, as soon as they do that, they can claim asylum. The other issue is, and has happened in the past, they immediately burst the boat and jump overboard, which means that the Navy then needs to save their lives, bring them on board, and they claim asylum. It's not as simple as it first seems, and I would argue anyone that says we're going to use the Marines on the northern coast of France or any other alarmist views like that needs to really think about the detail behind the military plan.
You've obviously got a real problem at housing asylum seekers in hotels. It's very unpopular. So is putting them in houses of multiple occupation. What about using some of the Navy's troop carriers to house migrants offshore rather than in hotels? Would that be feasible?
Personally, I don't think it would be feasible at all. Which troop carriers would we use? We have got military commitments all over the world that require the support of those ships, both to defend the UK and our overseas interests. To use them for migrants would be a misuse of a really expensive and capable asset that's involved in the defence of this nation.
And just finally, the France one in, one out, you've succeeded in sending back a handful of people, but nearly 6,000 have crossed the Channel since that scheme was announced. Do you really think you are going to be able to scale it up to the point at which it's a deterrent? Because at the moment, it's basic maths is telling people the chances are they're going to get to stay.
Yeah, so I'm in the Ministry of Defence. The reality is I have complete faith in Shabana Mahmood within the Home Office, pushing a really, really solid solutions forward. We've already pushed back 35,000 people. Yes, there are individuals coming across the Channel. We've got to stop it. You will not get a minister that says that it is acceptable, but we've got to do it in a cross-government and balanced way as fast as possible.
Al Khan's there, he's the Armed Forces Minister. You heard there, legal pitfalls of taking this kind of action, no easy solutions, to which Reform UK are rubbing their hands, I'm afraid.
Chris, so thank you very much. Stick with us, I'll come back to you shortly. I want to get my next guest in now, a man with a huge amount of experience in this area. That's the former NATO commander, Rear Admiral Chris Parry. Chris, always a pleasure to have your company. It's funny, isn't it? It just seems that during wartime, being an island is a huge benefit. You have a moat around you, you can defend the moat, you can deploy weaponry, you can put barbed wire on the beaches, but in peacetime it's our Achilles heel, because as soon as those dinghies are in our waters, I'm afraid we are duty bound by the law. You could hear that there, the desperation, almost the realisation in the voice of Al Carnes. What do you make of the notion that we should be using the military as Donald Trump said yesterday?
Well, Martin, I've been saying for 10 years that we need a strategy for this. I've yet to see a strategy. And we also need people who are well-versed in how to deal with problems. I'm fed up with excuses, as you are, to tell you the truth, but there are ways of dealing with this. If you say to the military, I need a solution, they produce it. If you say to lawyers, they're employed to provide a solution. At the moment, all we've got is excuses. If it's a legal problem, what we do is we declare a humanitarian crisis in the Channel, and we suspend those laws that are getting in the way of providing humanitarian assistance. What we shouldn't be doing is allowing people to cross our border. All that international maritime law requires us to do is take people to a place of safety, not to the UK. So if they are basically offloaded, for example, on the border, we can take them back to France. It's as simple as that. I think what we've got to do is say to people like Al Khan's, yeah, we hear that, but, you've been in the military, you're now a politician, you're in the business of providing solutions. And for every problem, there is a solution. And until we have the political will to stop what is going on in the Channel, we're not going to get anywhere. There won't be a strategy or anything. I've put 5 plans into the Home Office in the last 10 years, none of which have had a response.
Chris Parry, I find that astonishing because you're speaking music to the ears there of GB News viewers and listeners. They'll be saying, hurrah, all it takes is the stones to actually face this down and protect our borders. And you're saying we could do that, but it seems we don't want to do that.
No, our politicians don't want to do it. I'm afraid to say that they don't ask the right people. I think there are vested interests involved in quite a lot of the contracts associated with this. Al Khan's, for example, said, as soon as they step on board a British boat, they can claim asylum. OK, use contractors who have a Liberian flag or a Rwandan flag. There are ways around this. People aren't thinking about wicked problems in a wicked way.
Chris Parry, I've just heard more ideas from you in the last 2 minutes than I've heard from the government in 14 months. It really is incredible.
I put a fully costed strategy into the Rishi Sunak government in December 2023. It went to number 10. It was totally cut off by the civil servants before it got to the Prime Minister. That plan is still viable. And Penny Mordaunt yesterday, who was in that government, actually used one of my ideas and claimed it as her own. So those ideas are out there and we can actually implement them, but we need, frankly, good brains looking at this and saying it's a wicked problem, we've got to sort it out. And frankly, as I said, in 10 years, I've been offering all these ideas and they've been totally ignored.
Chris Parry, could I see that, please? Can you please send that, your plan to me? I would absolutely love to see it and sink my teeth into it, and we can start using those ideas perhaps on this show.
I'll put it on Twitter. I mean, if people want to access it, it's it's a public document, and I'm part of a group called Fighting for a Free Future, and that document is right at the heart of some of the things we are doing right now. But I'm fed up with governments who have vast resources and intellectual sort of access, saying to us, "This is a problem we can't solve." Fed up with it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I absolutely think there we should be getting on the phone. You should be on the phone, the bat phone there, former NATO Commander Rear Admiral Chris Parry, to number 10. We might have a hope in hell of doing something about it. Thank you for your company. Always an absolute pleasure. Now, I've got some breaking news for you here, and it's this. The Scottish Government Minister, Jamie Hepburn, has resigned after he was accused of physically assaulting the Conservative MSP Douglas Ross. Just to quickly repeat that. Breaking news, Scottish Government Minister Jamie Hepburn has resigned after he was accused of physically assaulting the Conservative MSP Douglas Ross. Chris Hope, bit of reaction from you there.
That's right. Looking now, breaking news here. The former Scottish Tory leader has spoken to a motion on timetabling in the Holyrood Chamber, calling for a statement on a summit about aggressive seagulls, after which he was approached by Jamie Hepburn, reports say, who he claimed grabbed him firmly by the shoulder and launched into a foul-mouthed tirade. Speaking to journalists on Thursday, Mr Hepburn said he'd used some choice words, which he should not have done, but denied having aggressively grabbed the MSP, instead saying he put my hand on his shoulder. OK, that's the breaking news there. Chris, I've been desperate to ask you about your time with the state visit. You were this close to the front row. You were on the front row of that moment in history. I wanted to ask you about the body language. When you're there looking in the eyes with the Prime Minister and the President,
Who was really in control?
Fascinating. I've been to three of these with Sir Keir Starmer and Donald Trump in February, July, and now. In the first two have been Donald Trump's show, a kind of relaxed horseshoe around two seated gentlemen. This was more of a there's me at Checkers yesterday, but I've got the picture shortly to show you of my actual view from my seat at the press conference. They're right up close. They're about 6 feet from me at times, really close. I could almost see the whites of their eyes. He's quite a stooping guy. He's tall. That's my view from my chair at that press conference.
You're on the front row of history there.
Front row of history, hand in the air, not asked for a question because a list of journalists was selected by Downing Street. I was not given that opportunity. I asked one, wasn't given one. That's fine. That's not everyone can have a question. But it was definitely they tried to give Keir Starmer the control here. It was his house. He controlled who was called from the UK side. Of course, when Donald Trump went over, he went straight to Bev Turner, our colleague from GB News.
And she joins me in the next hour, by the way, for a first interview since. A historic moment, Chris.
But he's a big guy. He wanted to try and take over, I sensed, from the way they were working together, but couldn't. He had to respect. It was the house, the home of Keir Starmer. At one point, he gave Keir Starmer a massive slap on the back when Keir Starmer said that Hamas wouldn't run Gaza. That was interesting. I sensed it was like a cage line. I read today, of course, somewhere that it was like having a lawyer with this rather colourful client, and that's how it felt.
OK, and many people believe that it was the president in control on British soil. Chris Hope, excellent report these past few days, as ever.
Thank you, mate.
Tremendous stuff. Thank you very, very much. Now, still to come in the show today, I'll be joined by the relentless activist Lindsay Smith, as the FA has announced it will no longer participate in the Rainbow Laces campaign over its links to Stonewall. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. It's 4:27. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News on this magnificent Friday afternoon. Now, the FA, the Football Association, has announced it will no longer participate in the Rainbow Laces campaign over its links to Stonewall. Now, football's governing body was set to discipline the former Marquee after Marquee after he allegedly broke its rules on displaying religious messaging on his kit. But they backed down after campaign group We Are Fair Cop, of course led by Harry Miller, argued the FA was breaching its own rules by showing support to Stonewall. Well, to discuss this further, I'm joined by the LGB advocate, Lindsay Smith. Lindsay, welcome to the show. So it's 1-0 to you, it's 1-0 to Harry Miller, and the FA have been shown the red card. You must be feeling jubilant.
Yeah, well, absolutely buzzing. Harry yesterday was over the moon with it all. And I think he'll appreciate you using the giving Stonewall the red card as well, because he was really impressed with that one.
And the thing about this, right, is that the central tenet of this all along is that Stonewall is a political movement. It has a political directive, and you believe that its politics discriminated specifically against you.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's the biggest thing as well is the hypocrisy behind it. You know, the willing, you know, because I'm, as well as being a lesbian woman, I am also a Christian woman. You know, and their very own rules are, you know, you're not allowed to display any religious or political insignia or anything like that. But yet here they are working with a very political organisation in Stonewall, and pushing a political agenda in the Rainbow Laces. So, you know, as a massive part of it really was the hypocrisy. You can't enforce these laws and threaten someone with a sanction when you're not even following the rules yourself. It's clown world.
And Lindsay, we've also seen a severe pushback against the Pride movement in policing, in those police marches. I know, again, Harry Miller has been very active in that. Do you think we're seeing a breakthrough now, a return to common sense, or is it still a long way to go yet?
Yeah, because it was me and Harry that actually did that with Northumbria Police as well. It was me and him that won the judicial review. And again, that one there, it's not about it. My issue isn't with Pride and things like that. If people want to celebrate, it's not personally my thing. But if people want to celebrate it, do what you want. But the issue was police need to police without fear or favour. They can't be seen dancing around the political narrative. You know, even if it was something I supported, I would still disapprove. But I do think bit by bit, we're really starting to chip away. Especially at the governing bodies and things like that now, they're all starting to really get the message bit by bit. So there appears to be some light appearing at the end of the tunnel in this battle.
And as well as sport, as well as policing, Lindsay Smith, would you like to see the likes of Stonewall and the Pride movement just removed from public life altogether?
I think when it comes to Stonewall, I really think they need to have less influence. I don't understand how they've ended up getting so much influence everywhere. They're literally in every organisation, public bodies, you know, civil service, down to, you know, your pubs, like your large pub company. They're literally everywhere, the diversity. And they've spent years misrepresenting the law and helped get us to this point. So for me, I mean, you know, because everybody has the freedom of choice. I haven't got an issue with Pride itself. I do think it's a bit over the top. I don't think we need a whole month. And it appears to be more than a month because I'm seeing there's still Pride events going on. We're in September now.
Yeah,
I think October.
It's a bit like Christmas starts in September in Tesco's. I think Pride now is just becoming all year round. But seriously, Lindsay Smith, just to be absolutely clear, like you stated yourself, you're a lesbian woman. This isn't a homophobic thing. It's about taking the politics out of sport, taking the politics out of policing.
Yeah, it's all of it, really. I mean, people are sick and tired of having it all rammed down their throat. I'm sick of it as a gay woman. You know, and the thing is, being a lesbian, I say this all the time, is probably the least interesting thing going on about me in my life. It's not something I need to declare everywhere I go. It's not something I need attention bringing to. I'm just a person. And any reasonable gay person, even if you speak to a reasonable transsexual, all they want to do is blend into life, get on with life, and just be left alone and do what everybody else is doing. We don't want a big fanfare and parade everywhere we go and acknowledgement and stuff. That's just not the point. It was never the fight. The fight was for us to be able to live, love, and be just like everybody else, you know.
Wonderful stuff. Lindsay Smith, thank you very much. And well done to you. Well done to Harry Miller of Faircop. Now, I know people on your timeline said, well, I give you a salute. So I'm going to give you a salute because, of course, I got a bit of flack for saluting at Windsor Castle. I don't care. I absolutely love it. And you're well worthy of a second salute, Lindsay Smith. Pleasure to have you on the show. It absolutely is. You take care. There you go.
Thank you, Martin. Take care.
Now, we have a reply here from the FA. They told GB News this. Our present intention, subject to further consideration, is to move away from supporting single campaigns based on symbolism. There you go. And lots more still to come to it now, 5 o'clock, including a shop owner in Germany has banned Jewish people from entering his store while vowing he is not a Nazi, and astonishing echoes of dark history. That's next, but first, here's your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. Good afternoon to you. Our headlines. GB News can reveal at least 800 asylum seekers are expected to attempt to cross the English Channel today. Border Force says it is braced for a significant day of small boat activity following 9 days of bad weather. An Eritrean man's become the second migrant to be deported to France under the one-in, one-out deal after losing a High Court bid to have his removal temporarily blocked. British couple freed by the Taliban after nearly 8 months in captivity have been reunited with their daughter Sarah during emotional scenes in Qatar. Barbie and Peter Reynolds, who'd lived in Afghanistan for nearly 2 decades, were released as a result of Qatari mediation. The UK and Irish governments have reached a new agreement on how killings from the Northern Ireland Troubles should be investigated. Ireland's Deputy Prime Minister Simon Harris has described the deal, which replaces the 2023 Legacy Act, as a night and day improvement. And the United States has, for the 6th time, vetoed a draft resolution at the UN Security Council that would have demanded an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages. The US says the text didn't go far enough in condemning Hamas or recognising Israel's right to defend itself. And those are your headlines. I have a full bulletin for you coming up at 5 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, there will be some spells of rain for some, with a Met Office warning in force across northern and western parts of the UK, and feeling chillier for all as we head towards Sunday. Back to this afternoon and this evening, though, it's been quite warm across parts of the south and southeast, but where we see this frontal system lingering across parts of the north, that's where we'll see lingering cloud and also some outbreaks of rain. And this system will slowly edge its way southeastwards, pushing more into Wales and southwest England through the course of the night. We could see some quite heavy bursts of rain associated with this feature. Remaining mostly dry across parts of the south and southeast, just a few showers clipping into the far northwest. With plenty of cloud around, it's going to be a mostly mild night, temperatures dropping to around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Then to begin the weekend, mostly dry, but there are going to be some showers. These could be quite blustery at times, particularly across the far north and northwest of Scotland. Also some just starting to push into western coasts of Wales. Otherwise, Northern Ireland largely dry. But northern England, parts of Wales and southwest England, it is going to be a very wet start with some heavy downpours expected at times. And it's across these areas where we do have a Met Office rain warning in force, so a chance we could see some impacts due to localised flooding. Across the far southeast, though, remaining driest here for longest, even some bright spells across Sussex and Kent, parts of East Anglia, and a mix of sunny spells and showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for many across England and Wales, it is going to be a very wet start to the weekend. Not feeling quite as mild as it did this afternoon, but temperatures still reaching around 23 degrees Celsius across the southeast. Through into the evening, there's still going to be outbreaks of rain. The weather warning's still in force. This system eventually pushing its way into the North Sea, but it could turn quite blustery as it does so. Feeling a lot chillier from Sunday onwards. We might even start to see some frost into next week, but it should remain mostly dry next week with plenty of sunny spells.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Motorists on the M25 clockwise between junctions 3 and 4 face delays due to a collision, with 2 lanes closed. The M6 southbound in Lancashire is congested between junctions 36 and 35. Delays on the M25 in Buckinghamshire occur between junctions 16 and 17 due to a broken down vehicle. In Staffordshire, 2 lanes on the M6 southbound are closed between junctions 14 and 13. The A38 in Derbyshire is congested between the A61 Alfreton and the M1. Disruptions persist on the Elizabeth line between London Paddington and Heathrow Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:38 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a shop owner in Germany has banned Jewish people from entering his store, but he insists he is not a Nazi. The town's mayor described it as a reminder of the darkest chapters in Germany's history. Recall, back in the 1930s, this was reality. The Nazi regime organised an orchestrated boycott of Jewish goods and carried signs with anti-Jewish slogans, as you can see on your screens now. Disgraceful and despicable part of human history. And in the current day Germany, the shop owner is currently under investigation from the German authorities. Well, I'll speak now with our next guest. That's the Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Stephen Silverman. Stephen, I'm not Jewish. I have to say, when I saw this story, chilled me to my absolute core, and that is because I was taught at school about the Third Reich. I was taught at school about Kristallnacht, about the shameful bullying and persecution of Jewish people in the Weimar before the Holocaust. How on earth can this be happening again in modern Germany?
I think it's a very simple answer, Martin. It's an expression of explicit, and it has to be said, smug and self-satisfied racial hatred that is shocking, and it's made all the more shocking by the almost casual nature in which it's expressed. But no one should be surprised. We have been on this trajectory for 2 years. I mean, you and your viewers will know the old expression, give them an inch and they'll take a yard. Well, Islamist and radical left extremists have been given miles over the last couple of years, far more leeway than other flavors of extremism. And it has created a permissive climate in which people believe that this is possible because they've learned that usually there are no consequences. It's a complete failure of government and it's a total failure of law enforcement. And it isn't just a problem for Jews. Every decent person should be alarmed by this, because if it becomes possible to do this to Jewish people, when there are no more Jewish people left, it will be done to other minorities. So this is where we are. It is unbelievable. I mean, it's happened in Germany, and you would expect that the German authorities will come down like a ton of bricks on something like this. They usually do. But that doesn't make it any more reassuring.
Stephen Silverman, the details, again, they just really chill me. The store owner, a gentleman called Hans Welten Reich, he owns a small speciality store. He put a sign initially in his window. The sign read, "Jews are banned from here. Nothing personal, no anti-Semitism, just can't stand you." That's blatant, abject, naked racism.
And it sounds as though he thinks it's funny as well. I'm a little to the left, a little to the right, but not radical. I'm not a Nazi. Well, I'm sorry, but you most certainly are a Nazi, at least in your attitude towards Jews. You know, there are two... Anti-Semitism tends to divide into two flavors. The political anti-Semitism of the left, where Jews are discriminated against and abused because of what they think their political views are, and social anti-Semitism, which was the anti-Semitism practiced by the Nazis. Jews are a disease that needs to be expunged from society, and this is very much that kind of anti-Semitism. So if this chap thinks he's not a Nazi, well, I've got news for him. And he set up a neat little purity test that Jews have to pass to prove that they're worthy of his coffee. What do you think about a war that's taking place 2,500 miles away, over which you have absolutely no influence? oh dear, wrong answer, get out. You know, if he doesn't understand what he's doing, and I strongly suspect he does, he's an idiot as well as a racist.
Stephen Silverman, when it was pointed out to him that this was an abhorrent sign, his reaction wasn't to remove it altogether. It was initially in the window. He instead moved it inside his store. And then you have to live in hope. We have to have faith in humanity. The authorities did at this point clamp down. They removed the sign and the police got involved. And they removed the sign to prevent danger. There has been outrage across Germany. We have to maintain there is hope. And the windows of the shop had slogans such as Nazis out written on them. So at least there is some hope that there has been a backlash. But the mayor of this town, Flensburg, the mayor Fabian Geyer, he said this is a reminder of the darkest chapters of Germany's history and has absolutely no place in our city. This is the clear statement against Jews. Stephen Silverman, could I pull that back to the United Kingdom? We see survey after survey telling us anti-Semitism is on the rise here. Do you feel we're heading to the same dark location in Britain?
Well, look, Campaign Against Anti-Semitism released a survey a couple of weeks ago, and that showed us a couple of things. 20% of the UK are now anti-Semitic. They believe at least 4 anti-Semitic statements about Jews. The really worrying thing is that increases to 40% in the 18 to 24-year-old demographic. So these are our future politicians, our future teachers, our future judges, our future senior police officers. And the really worrying thing is, to turn this around, government and the institutions that have the ability to deal with it need to be swinging into action now. And they're not. There's no sign of that. You know, and even if they were, it'll be like turning an ocean liner around. It'll be a slow process. So we are heading to a very, very dark place.
Stephen Silverman, I just think these children need to be taught what I was taught. Kristallnacht, the 9th and the 10th of November 1938, the Nazi Party, the SS, Hitler Youth smashed the windows of 7,000 Jewish-owned businesses and rioted and destroyed 1,400 synagogues. That was the first opening chapter to the Holocaust. We cannot go down that route again. I wish you peace, and I hope we can just turn a corner and just stamp this cancer out of anti-Semitism, particularly in the UK. Stephen Silverman, thank you for joining us on a sobering day in news. Thank you very much indeed. Now moving on, if you're searching some holiday sun, then here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hot weather continues across the Canaries. It will turn a little cooler here into next week. Plenty of fine and sunny weather for Greece and Turkey, although a bit of a brisk breeze blowing across some of the Greek islands. Lots of sunshine too for Italy during the weekend, and indeed for much of eastern and southern Spain. But we will see increasing cloud and some showers over northern Spain and northern Portugal during Saturday afternoon. It is hot in Tenerife, but those temperatures just dipping off a little bit into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Today, some joyous news. We're all very happy around the GB News studios, and that is because Emily Carver and Patrick Christie's have announced the birth of their baby son.
Yes, and what a name it is. George Alexander Peter Christie's was born at 5:26 a.m. on Friday morning. Both mother and baby are doing well, and I think he's a baby Patrick. He's a mini Patrick. Look at his little face.
Yeah.
So cute. It's lovely news, isn't it?
Oh,
and a lovely name.
Well, he's got a lot of names.
It's a long name.
4 names, but a solid, strong name. George Alexander Peter Christie.
How many middle names have you got?
Huh?
How many middle names have you got?
None.
Have you not got any middle names?
I'm playing Eamon Holmes.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Ellie, have you got
Do you not
middle
have a
names?
confirmation name? One you threw in yourself?
Well, I do. You did have one.
I've got one. May.
Oh, have you?
What?
M-A-E. May.
Oh,
May.
right.
That's different. I had an Aunt May.
Yeah. It's an Irish name, isn't it? Yeah. What about you? What have you got?
Michael.
Very nice.
Paul
very
Michael,
strong.
which I was very excited about because it's like Paul Michael Glaser and Starsky and Hutch. So I used to run around thinking, yeah, it's not bad, is it?
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, my youngest son, Patrick and Emily's child is Alexander is his second name, and my son has this name Alexander. Well, it's supposed to be his main name, but then my wife on her birthbed realised, she said, "You wouldn't be calling this child after some football manager, would you?"
She clocked on.
So she wouldn't allow Alexander to be his main name.
Was it named after a certain football manager?
It was indeed.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's funny.
Didn't get anywhere with that, but there we go.
Nice try, though.
Maybe you could get a boy dog.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 4:49. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, before we begin this next story, I'll be using some strong language in order to convey the account of what's happened, so apologies if you're offended. But the Labour leader of Hertsmere Borough Council has described those that put up the St George's flag and the Union flag on lampposts as a bunch of criminals, extremists and nonces. Jeremy Newmark made these comments about Operation Raise the Colours in response to Tory councillor Brett Rosehill's question. Take a listen.
Do you accept that by constantly linking our national flag to extremism, as you did in the question, or the answer to the question, as well as many Labour MPs at the moment, that you run the risk of letting extremists define it instead of reclaiming it for the mainstream?
Thank you, Councillor Rosehill. Councillor Newmark, please.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Rosehill, and I'm sorry, but I'm not playing. I won't be taking lectures on our national flag and extremism from a councillor that has the audacity to speak in almost glowing terms in his question to this council about Operation Raise the Colours. Operation Raise the Colours. An organised and orchestrated attempt by a bunch of criminals, extremists, nonces, to hijack our national flag.
I still cannot believe he even said that. Well, joining me now is the founding member of the Operation Raise the Colours movement, Elliot Stanley. Elliot, welcome to the show. You've been down to see us in Westminster here, and I spoke with you at great length, and I know that what you do means you get a lot of abuse. You're well used to being called a Nazi, you're well used to being called a fascist and a racist, but to be called a nonce by a Labour councillor, that's a new low.
Well, it's an outrage. We're deeply distressed by it. We're family people. We're going out. He's essentially putting a target on our back, and I cannot fathom how we can be called nonces for displaying our beautiful flag on lampposts. I mean, is this the best way the left can articulate themselves, by calling, people that we're not right wing, we're just centrists, but by calling us horrendous words? It's deeply distressing. My family could be a target now because of the words of this councillor. Words have consequences. As poor Charlie Kirk has found out. It's just completely unacceptable to be banding these horrendous words and around willy-nilly as they are. It's deeply distressing.
Now, Eddie, I can tell you're greatly moved by this, and I don't blame you. Perhaps the councillor doesn't understand what he's doing, but you and I know that that's one of the worst things you can call somebody, particularly in working class areas of Britain. You know, it's a terrible, terrible smear to call anybody a nonce. It's perhaps one of the worst things you could possibly call them. In many ways, it's worse than being called a racist or a fascist. We have to call for calm, don't we? You have to send a message to Jeremy Newmark saying, stop this offensive language. As you said, words have consequences.
Absolutely. I mean, well, if I was him, I'd think I'd be considering my position now, to be honest with you. I think that, you know, he should do the right thing and fall on his sword. It's an outrage that he would be prepared to use such defamatory words in a public forum. And he really does need to consider his position, because I'm sure that he's not the type of people, he's not the type of person that that borough would want representing them.
And Eddie, Stanley, what's the reaction been within the Operation Raise the Colours community to this astonishing outburst?
Well, it's only come to light in the last few hours, and everybody is absolutely horrified by it, understandably. You know, it's, as you just pointed out, Martin, I can't think of anything that would be more defamatory than being called a nonce. It's, as I said, I'm a proud father of 4 children. All of us as a collective, we're all fathers, we've all got children, and now we're going out all over the weekend to keep putting more flags up. And what's the reaction? What are we to expect? Are we going to be called? You know, people are going to be driving past calling us names, or potentially worse? It's not a big leap now to to call for violence against us.
Okay. Eddie, Stanley, I'm afraid I have to stop you there. We're running out of time, but I really appreciate you coming on today. I know it's been very moving for you to do so. Thank you. Now, we approached the Labour Party and Councillor Jeremy Newmark, who made these astonishing comments, for a reply, but neither of them have got back to us yet. I would extend, again, as I did in the last hour, please do get back to us. We'd love to hear why you thought this was a good idea. Coming on next, we promised 1 in, 1 out by Labour Party, but so far it's 800 in and only 2 out. That's next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, there will be some spells of rain for some, with a Met Office warning in force across northern and western parts of the UK, and feeling chillier for all as we head towards Sunday. Back to this afternoon and this evening, though, it's been quite warm across parts of the south and southeast, but where we see this frontal system lingering across parts of the north, that's where we'll see lingering cloud and also some outbreaks of rain. And this system will slowly edge its way southeastwards, pushing more into Wales and southwest England through the course of the night. We could see some quite heavy bursts of rain associated with this feature. Remaining mostly dry across parts of the south and southeast, just a few showers clipping into the far northwest. With plenty of cloud around, it's going to be a mostly mild night, temperatures dropping to around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Then to begin the weekend, mostly dry, but there are going to be some showers. These could be quite blustery at times, particularly across the far north and northwest of Scotland. Also some just starting to push into western coasts of Wales. Otherwise, Northern Ireland largely dry. But northern England, parts of Wales and southwest England, it is going to be a very wet start with some heavy downpours expected at times. And it's across these areas where we do have a Met Office rain warning in force, so a chance we could see some impacts due to localised flooding. Across the far southeast, though, remaining dry here for longest, even some bright spells across Sussex and Kent, parts of East Anglia, and a mix of sunny spells and showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for many across England and Wales, it is going to be a very wet start to the weekend. Not feeling quite as mild as it did this afternoon, but temperatures still reaching around 23 degrees Celsius across the southeast. Through into the evening, there's still going to be outbreaks of rain. The weather warning's still in force. This system eventually pushing its way into the North Sea, but it could turn quite blustery as it does so. Feeling a lot chillier from Sunday onwards. We might even start to see some frost into next week, but it should remain mostly dry next week with plenty of sunny spells.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M25 in Buckinghamshire, a broken down vehicle delays traffic by up to 1.5 hours, with 2 lanes closed. The A1M northbound entry slip at junction 45 in Leeds is closed due to an incident. In Derbyshire, the A38 northbound has one lane closed between the A61 Alfreton and the M1 due to a collision. Herefordshire faces congestion on the A40 westbound between the A4137 and A466. And on the trains, cross-country services are disrupted between Basingstoke and Eastleigh, and the Elizabeth line is affected between London Paddington and Heathrow Airport or Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Very, very good afternoon to you on this beautiful Friday afternoon. It's 5 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK. All the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. Now, here's what's coming up on the rest of your show today. And breaking news, hallelujah. Another migrant has been deported. And we were promised one in, one out by the Labour Party. But now this takes the total to 3 who've been going out, while up to 1,000 illegal immigrants are steaming ashore into Britain on a so-called Star Marder of dinghies. It's another day, it's another border farce for Sir Keir Starmer. And Donald Trump has blasted Sadiq Khan as among the worst mayors in the world and revealed he banned Khan from the royal banquet. But is the London mayor really that bad? Well, I'll be joined by GB News' Bev Turner, live from Washington. And government lawyers have advised 150 SAS veterans not to engage with the government's witch hunt after 2 of their regiments were arrested for historic killings in Afghanistan. On today's show, I'll be joined by an SAS hero who says this witch hunt has to stop. And breathtaking, poetic and simply stunning. Just a few of the plaudits poured upon a London photographer's pictures, as you can see on your screens now. Magnificent stuff from last week's Unite the Kingdom March. Viewed millions of times globally and with fans including Elon Musk. I'll be joined in the studio live by the man behind the lens. That's all coming in next hour. Get the champagne on ice. Hallelujah. A 3rd person has been deported today on a flight to Paris. That's 3 in, and we believe at least 800 confirmed to have already landed. And our Homeland Security Editor Mark White saying up to 1,000 could be today's total, with more flat, smooth weather ahead over the coming days. We were promised that this would help us to smash the gangs and take back control. Does this feel like taking back control to you. Plus, later this hour, we're joined by the woman of the moment, Bev Turner, who's definitely captured, I think, the president's eye. The first question the world's media asked yesterday was our very own Bev Turner with Donald Trump. I'll be joined by her for her full reaction, her analysis, her reflections on that historic second state visit where Bev Turner not only had a ringside seat, but she became, I think, the supporting star of the show. Get in touch usual ways. GBNews.com/your say is the way to do so. But now here's your headlines, and it's Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. 5:02. Good evening to you. Our top stories. At least 800 migrants are expected to attempt to cross the English Channel in total today. People smugglers around the Calais and Dunkirk areas pushed multiple small boats out into the Channel at first light, following 9 days of windy weather which prevented any migrant crossings. GBNews earlier counted more than 160 people being taken off the first Border Force vessel to arrive. They were then led to the migrant processing facility in Dover Harbour. That was earlier today. Hundreds more have or will arrive shortly. They'll be the first people to make the crossing since 188 migrants tried to do the journey on the 10th of September. Now, the government says it will ramp up the number of returns to France. It's just been confirmed a third person has been sent back under the one-in, one-out agreement. The third person joins two from earlier this week. Today, a 25-year-old Eritrean man lost his legal challenge and was removed. He has 8 days to either claim asylum in France or return to his home country. And earlier this week, an Indian national was the first to go back under the pilot scheme in a case that was without a legal challenge. Now, the Home Office says the scheme is designed to discourage small boat crossings. The Justice Secretary, David Lammy, insists it's working.
This pilot with France is a milestone because it sends an immediate deterrence to people, many of them coming obviously across the water, that we will send them back. And it is our hope to see that grow over the coming months and years, because we have to bear down on the gangs and we have to smash the model effectively, and we have to ensure that those who do not have a right to be here are sent back to the countries from which they're from.
Now, two ambulance trust workers have been arrested over the deaths of 6 people in Wiltshire. Police revealed a man and a woman, both employees of the South Western Ambulance Service, were detained on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter as part of a major investigation dating back to 2023. They've been released on conditional bail. The British and Irish governments have released a new agreement on how killings linked to the Troubles should be investigated. It includes an overhaul of the commission that looks into deaths in Northern Ireland during the conflict. Now, the new measures replace the controversial Legacy Act brought in by the Conservatives that cancelled inquests and prosecutions and was opposed by Labour, all Northern Ireland parties, several victims groups and the Irish government. Now, it was announced earlier by the Irish Deputy Prime Minister Simon Harris and the Northern Ireland Secretary Hilary Benn. Mr Harris says it's a vast improvement on the previous legislation.
There is now a comprehensive set of measures that both governments can take to provide the maximum truth, justice and accountability to those who urgently need it and deserve it.
An elderly British couple released after being detained in Afghanistan for almost 8 months have landed safely in Qatar. There were emotional scenes in Doha as 76-year-old Barbie Reynolds and her husband Peter, who's 80, were reunited with their daughter Sarah. They will now undergo medical checks in the Gulf state before returning to Britain. The Taliban said the couple, who had lived in the country for 18 years, were arrested for breaking Afghan laws, although they didn't provide any further clarity about what laws had been broken. The couple were freed following mediation efforts led by Qatar. The United States has, for a 6th time, vetoed a draft resolution by the UN Security Council that would have demanded an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The US Middle East envoy, Morgan Ortagus, said the text didn't go far enough in condemning Hamas or recognising Israel's right to defend itself. All 14 other members of the Security Council voted in favour of the resolution, which described the humanitarian situation in Gaza as catastrophic. The UN's humanitarian office has warned that the last lifelines for civilians are collapsing in Gaza City as Israel expands its military offensive there. Now, the assisted dying bill has passed the second reading stage in the House of Lords, therefore taking it closer to becoming brought into law. It is back after arguments last week saw it branded a licence to kill among opponents, but described by supporters as a way of giving choice and showing compassion to dying people. The proposed legislation, a Labour peer says, is not a suicide bill, criticising former Prime Minister Theresa May. Meanwhile, a Conservative Foreign Minister has suggested people could be tempted to encourage ageing relatives to choose an assisted death for their own financial gain. That's the bottom line, really, the basis of the arguments. The legislation proposes allowing terminally ill adults in England and Wales with fewer than 6 months to live to apply for an assisted death. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with a short bulletin in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And a quick look at the markets. The pound buys you $1.34 and €1.14. Gold, £2,705 and 5 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 has finished trading at 9,241 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, and now we've got some breaking news for you now, and it's this from the Home Office. Just been told that now 3 migrants have been deported. An Iranian male is the latest departure, and this comes as 800 illegal immigrants at least have steamed ashore into Britain today alone on a so-called Star Marder of dinghies. Well, let's speak now to GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, it sounds like the opening line to a bad joke. An Indian, an Eritrean, an Iranian walk into a departure lounge. And a lot of people will be thinking this is a bad joke. 3 out, but what, nearly 1,000 in one single day?
Yeah, and we can bring you up to date with some of the figures for those crossing the channel just in the last hour since we last spoke. The Border Force vessel Ranger arrived into Dover with 108 migrants on board, so that's probably 2 boatloads there. And then just in the last 15 minutes, the Border Force vessel Typhoon arrived with a further 96 on board. That could be just one small boat. If it is, that's an astonishing number to cram onto one small boat. The Border Force vessel Hurricane, according to our producer Chris, is now on its way. It was at the centre of a mayday after a number of migrants ended up in the water, as is not uncommon when they're trying to transfer them from the small boat onto the Border Force vessel. They've all been taken from the water and from the boat and onto the Border Force vessel Hurricane, which is speeding its way back to Dover as we speak. That's going to be another 60 or 70 at least. And then add to that 3 more boats that are under escort by the French, still in French waters, but making good progress, not far from hitting that line where they'll be picked up by Border Force or a lifeboat and taken to Dover. So yes, I think by the end of today, we're probably going to be hitting 1,000 migrants who've crossed in a single day. This, of course, the total for the week, because we had no small boat migrants because of bad weather earlier in the week. But compare that, 3 migrants who've been returned to France in the space of a week, 1,000 who've come over in just one day, but also in the space of a week. You can see the difference there. So for those that try to tell you that this is a deterrent, if you're a people smuggler, indeed if you are a migrant who is planning to come into the UK illegally through this route, you're going to think the odds are pretty good that you're not going to be returned back to France.
And yet, Mark White, we've heard David Lammy today saying this is it. This is the silver bullet. No, don't worry, British public. The answer is here. Mark White, how much longer can they continue with this charade? They called the Rwanda scheme nothing but a gimmick. Mark White, I put it to you. The 1 in, one out scheme is looking like yet another gimmick.
Well, we know, of course, ministers have to try to accentuate the positive, but I really do think he's been drinking just a wee bit too much of the Kool-Aid there. There's no way that you can really argue if you are taking a sort of just a sober assessment of where we are, that in any way, shape or form what is happening at the moment can be seen as a deterrent. OK, they think it may be the first steps towards widening out a programme, but to what? Because we're told that the programme is likely, if it gets up to capacity in the short term, be about 50 a week. Well, even just in this week where we've only had one day of crossings and it's 1,000, compare 50 to 1,000, the odds are stacked in your favour that you're not going to be on that return flight back to Charles de Gaulle Airport. So, as I say, you know, as a deterrent, at the moment, it clearly just isn't that. It might be expanded out if France will agree to it, but there's nothing that I'm hearing from anyone that actually has any insight here into the migrant crisis that France is in any real appetite, has any real appetite to expand this scheme beyond that sort of modest number that they're agreeing to take back at the moment.
Mark White, it's a tidal wave coming in, it's a trickle going back, it's pea shooters against tanks, it's yet another border farce. Mark White, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on the show today. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, welcome to the show. This is a total and utter political nightmare for Sir Keir Starmer. Yesterday, he was being lectured, he was being schooled by Donald Trump on bringing in the military, deploy them, and you sat down with Al Khan today. You put this precise question to him. Tell us what happened.
Yes, so he is the Armed Forces Minister. He was served in the Armed Forces for a couple of decades, and I said to him, does Donald Trump have a point? Don't you need to be much more robust? Let's have a look first at some of what he had to say.
In the past, the Navy has helped our Coast Guard and others to identify and track and monitor boat crossings coming across the Channel to ensure there's a reduced loss of life, because it is exceptionally dangerous. And of course, we've helped in the planning in the past, in the early 20s, to ensure that we had our full planning support behind the migration issue.
But you say the Navy have helped. Does that mean they're not helping now? And if not, why not? Is it just that we don't have the resources?
What I would say is, and there's a lot of people that come out with easy solutions or a proposition of an easy solution to a really complex problem. Let's think about a Navy vessel. A Navy vessel goes alongside a inflatable boat with 150 people in it and tries to offload them onto the Navy boat. Immediately, as soon as they do that, they can claim asylum. The other issue is, and has happened in the past, they immediately burst the boat and jump overboard, which means that the Navy then needs to save their lives, bring them on board and they claim asylum. It's not as simple as it first seems.
So he's saying it's not so simple, partly that the armed forces don't have the resources, simply put. They've been hollowed out over many years, and of course what's going on in Ukraine, there's huge demands on the armed forces already. He was also saying to me, look, if you sent a Navy vessel out to a boat of migrants, as soon as they get on that boat they claim asylum, or they might puncture the boat, then you've got to try and rescue them from the sea. No easy answers, he says. But you see, the public's patience has just run out, hasn't it? Absolutely run out. And we look at the numbers, 3 back to France so far, but, you know, potentially 1,000 coming in one day, even if they manage to send 50 a week. What the people coming today, that could be like 16 weeks worth of returns. And also, don't forget, for every person who we do succeed in sending back, another person will come from France in their place.
So the one in, one out, if you like, is carbon neutral. It doesn't go in any way towards getting the numbers down. And meanwhile, we have approaching 1,000 in today, Mark White is saying. You can see pictures on your screen there of the border force, the border farce vessels continuing to roll into Dover, laden to the hilt. Catherine Forster with people that have been scooped off dinghies. And I put it to you that the only naval activity in the Channel is the French Navy. and they're chaperoning the dinghies to mid-channel, at which point our vessels simply become a taxi service to bring them ashore.
Exactly, acting as a taxi service. And of course, the French, for their part, for all the hundreds of millions that we have given them and for all that this agreement has, don't really like to have these migrants hanging around in camps on their northern coast. They don't really want them there either. And France has got its own problems. It's got a huge debt crisis. The government collapsed. They've got a new prime minister. They frankly got a lot of other things on their plate. This is not a priority for them. But I thought, you know, it was quite embarrassing at the press conference with the president yesterday and the prime minister. Yes, the president was on pretty good behaviour, but you know, this is deeply embarrassing because people will look across the pond at Donald Trump and see what they have managed to do with some pretty radical measures and a lot of willpower. But you know, the prime minister that we have, the government that we have, he is a former human rights lawyer. It's difficult to see them doing anything that radical here.
OK, Catherine Forster, thank you very much for joining us in the studio. Let's get to my next guest now. Speak with the director of First Migration, and that is Dean Morgan. Dean Morgan, welcome to the show. We have a terrible situation on our coast, and this is about illegal immigration. I understand you're an advocate of legal immigration, and we can all agree that controlled, structured legal immigration is a complete separate thing to what we're seeing down on our coast. But the problem is the British public are simply feeling that the government has lost control of both illegal and legal immigration.
Oh, completely. You know, I woke up this morning and GB News is doing a fantastic job covering this. But, you know, I'm being told that people smugglers are working on the French coast with impunity. And I have to ask myself, if the reporters can be there reporting on it, why can the authorities not be there clamping down and stopping it? So there's boats making it through, you know, river systems and making it out like a reverse Dunkirk to the UK. And then, you know, it's been a long time since a cabinet secretary has made me belly laugh. But when I read his comments in the media today, and I appreciate he's only just taken over as the Secretary of State for Business and Trade, but when he was asked about Donald Trump's comments, and clearly Donald Trump cares about his country and has actually taken a strong stance on illegal criminal migration, especially of fighting age men, which is why 3 million people or 1 million people last week marched in protest. You know, he's saying to the British government what I've been saying on GB News forever, which is that the military should be taking over this. And people make arguments about asylum law. We'll change the asylum laws. You know, talk about human rights, change the human rights laws. But they're saying, you know, today Peter Carl turned around and said, oh, we can't use the military because we need them for defence. Is that not the most ludicrous thing you've ever heard a government minister say? So we can't use our military to defend the British Isles and the British people because we need them for defence. I mean, honestly, no wonder the country's going bankrupt and, you know, we're facing a sovereign debt crisis with the calibre of that kind of person, you know, in charge. It's disgraceful.
You know, Dean Morgan, I think you raised a great point. Now, we talk a lot about British boots on the ground in Ukraine, you know, sending our boys and girls out there to defend Ukrainian sovereignty, Ukrainian borders, the Ukrainian invasion, and yet it'll be a cold day in hell. You have to conclude that the Labour Party would deploy British forces to protect our borders. No doubt that might contravene the human rights of those coming here illegally.
Well, you know, the thing that frustrates me the most is that for 30 years since the Blair era, we've had mass uncontrolled migration and open borders. And, you know, we don't have the judiciary doing anything. We don't have the intelligence services doing anything. We don't have the police doing anything. We don't have the government doing anything. We just have them like Lammy today giving us lip service. No wonder so many people are rising up and saying enough is enough. And I applaud Pete with his ridiculous comments today because he couldn't do more to wake up the British public. And, you know, with this crisis, think about it. If they're claiming that 100,000 people marched in London and we all saw the footage for ourselves, if there's 1,000 people coming in a day and 3 going out, you know, being sent back by the government every few months, then over 100 days, you have the 100,000 that the BBC claimed to be marching in London. And that's just over 3 months. This is beyond crisis. This is just a catastrophe.
OK, thanks for your sober reflections. We have to leave it there. That's the director of First Migration, Dean Morgan. Thanks for joining us on the show. Now, coming up, Donald Trump steams into Sadiq Khan after answering a question from our very own Bev Turner. Let's take a listen.
I think the mayor of London, Khan, is among the worst mayors in the world.
Well, beautiful Bev Turner, the woman of the moment, joins me next, live from Washington, D.C., in her first interview since, I think, stealing the show in Britain. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 25 past 5 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. I've got some breaking news for you now in the last few moments. A US judge has struck down Donald Trump's $15 billion lawsuit against the New York Times newspaper, saying his complaint violates a federal rule. Of course, this comes as Donald Trump has claimed he got London Mayor Sadiq Khan banned from attending the state banquet in Windsor on Wednesday evening. He gave this exclusive answer to GB News' very own Late Show live host Bev Turner on Air Force One.
Events in England, a state visit, spectacular. Right. And yet the Mayor of London can't be there.
I didn't want him there. I asked that he not be there. I don't want them. I think the Mayor of London, Khan, is among the worst mayors in the world. And we have some bad ones. If you look at Chicago, but I think he's the equivalent of the mayor of Chicago. I think he's done a terrible job. Crime in London is through the roof. The Mayor of London, Mayor Khan, has done a terrible job. And on immigration, he's a disaster. Now, I asked that he not be there. He wanted to be there, as I understand. I didn't want him. I've not liked him for a long time. I just think, I have a certain pride in London and UK. My mother was born in Scotland, as you know. And when I see Mayor Khan do a bad job, the stabbings and the dirt and the filth, it's not the same. No, I didn't want him to
Well, I'm delighted to say I'm now joined live from Washington, D.C. by GBNews' presenter, the big, beautiful star, Bev Turner. Bev, welcome to the show. First of all, can I commend you on, I think, stealing the show. Yesterday, Donald Trump could have chosen anybody in the entire world to go to first for a question. He chose you. How did that feel?
It felt, frankly, a little terrifying at the moment. In the moment, Martin, I can't lie. That press conference environment was so intense yesterday. It was in Chequers. We're in a wood-panelled room. You've got this enormous fireplace. There's two lecterns, two world leaders. They're ready to talk to the press. But it was very much on Sir Keir Starmer's terms. When I met these two previously, if you remember, that was in Scotland. And that was in Donald Trump's golf course. And it was a very different power dynamic. Yesterday, Starmer's team were in charge. And they wanted to keep that press conference under their control. In fact, the Trump team said it reminded them of a Biden press conference where he would curate the people that he wanted to talk to. So, of course, he took ITV, took The Sun, The Sky, Starmer did. And he also, bizarrely, spoke to someone from The Economist, which seemed a little odd. And then it was Donald Trump's turn, as you say. And I was thrilled. I was delighted when he came to GB News first, because I think our viewers and our listeners are very much, we're very interested in what Donald Trump has to say. Everything that happens here in Washington has an impact over in the UK. And I think our channel take a different view of things. We look at the world slightly differently than maybe Sky and ITV and Channel 4 do. So, yeah, I was absolutely delighted, Martin. It's brilliant. We've got a really important job to do here. So it was another fantastic step on this journey.
Yeah, and it really did feel like special even to those of us here. Like, I was covering it live on my show. When he chose you, I was so chuffed for you. I was so chuffed for the channel. And I think, actually, that you are truly holding power to your account. I want to ask you some more intimate stuff now. Particularly, we all saw that Donald Trump couldn't contain his love for the royal family. Clearly adores the royals. You were there. Tell us more.
He loves the UK. Every time you ask him a question about this country, he just wants to express how much he loves it. And he talks about the fact, he always says, doesn't he, my mother was born there, you know. It's so important to him. He's a true Anglophile. He has nothing in common with Sir Keir Starmer and this Labour Party politically. There is no reason why that alliance should produce anything of benefit to the British people, especially with Donald Trump running his America First policies. But he does it because he genuinely, and he said yesterday on the plane coming back, he said, you're a small country, but I want you to do well. I want success in the UK. And yesterday, obviously, they signed this business deal, this tech agreement. It's apparently worth billions to the UK. But I was talking to the Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, yesterday, just before the press conference, and he was saying the problem with the UK is we have too much regulation. He said it's not attractive to business because you put so many hurdles in the way. He said, you know, you've just got to dial all that down. What he's saying is smaller government. He said, just be more like us. It's working. So that's what we need to do here in the States, GB News. We need to show the British public what is going well here. And like you say, hold Starmer to account, hold, truth to power, because it doesn't feel in the UK that things are going particularly well for most people. You know, we've got pubs and hospitality and restaurants closing, but you've got them, you know, sat at the state dinner next to BlackRock and Google and, you know, investments from Nvidia. It all sounds wonderful, bigger picture stuff. Does nothing if you're running a decorators in Reading. And so that's where we have to get the balance right with this political landscape that we're looking at for the next few years up to the next election, I think.
I wonder, Bev Turner, can I ask you, we saw frankly embarrassing scenes on the streets of London. There are a couple of thousand goons going around doing an anti-Trump protest. I was live from Windsor. There were less people protesting against Trump there than there were GB News fans queuing to buy us beers. What I wanted to ask you was, does any of that get through to Donald Trump, that there are protests, and does he even care?
No, didn't cut through at all yesterday or the day before. You know, we had these two very specific events. Windsor Castle, hosted by King Charles. They laid out the red carpet like we have never seen in this country for anybody before. It was just amazing. Trump loved it. And he loves the King. And in fact, when on the plane coming back last night, when I said to him, what was your highlight for you of the last couple of days? And he thought about it and he said, King Charles. He said, you have a wonderful king. And in fact, I don't know whether you remember, after the Beating Retreat performance, they went and spoke to the crowds just in front of the castle. And there was a young girl there. She was about 13, long blonde hair. I think her father was in the performance. And I grabbed her afterwards and I said, what did President Trump say to you? And she said, oh, he said, you have a lovely king. And I just thought that's what Donald Trump loves about the UK. He really genuinely just wants us to do well as a country. So it's emotional for him. He's a man that thinks with facts and business and success and winning, isn't he? He's competitive, he wants to win. But when it comes to Great Britain, we have this phenomenal relationship with him. Talking about the relationship with the country, though, the other thing you might be interested in, Martin, is so many people are saying, how come Nigel Farage wasn't at that dinner? Why wasn't he invited? Wasn't he part of this? And why couldn't Donald Trump get him in the room? I know from extremely good source around this conversation that the president was actually a little confused as to why Nigel Farage wasn't there. He didn't really understand. He didn't understand why. Well, you know, you lead a political party that has seats in the House of Commons and Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives. He didn't understand. And I think that's because for him, Nigel isn't this sort of anti-establishment hate figure that so many people in the politics in the UK see him as. But actually, Donald Trump said, it's not my place to ask. Like, he is so polite about that sort of thing, contrary to what the opinion might be of him being a bit of a sort of braggart, is he would never have the lack of manners to go to the King or to go to Keir Starmer and say, can you invite Nigel Farage, please, to our event? He would never do that. He's much more dignified than that. But that relationship, obviously, Farage and Trump is interesting, and we'll see where that goes over the next 3 years as well.
OK, Bev Turner, you certainly have caught the president's eye. Perhaps you're the new second lady, so to speak, metaphorically, of course. Bev Turner, you've got a wonderful show starting on Monday night, live and direct from DC. Tell us all about it.
That's right, we have. Ben, Leo and I have been out here for nearly 3 weeks now, but we've had a huge amount to do. Obviously, not only are we kind of setting up domestically here for a little while at least, we are also setting up, we're in the studio here. We have so much work to do. We're getting all the technical stuff right for GB News viewers. It's really important we get this right. We're in the White House. We've got our accreditation now, so we can be in and out of there every week as well. We're going to be bringing you all the major stories from here, which we think our GB News viewers will be interested in, and we're going to be handling all of, primarily, the British stories that you're all talking about all day, and we're going to look at them through an American lens. We've got some fantastic contributors. We've got Ben Leo this weekend going out to cover Charlie Kirk's funeral in Phoenix on Saturday and Sunday. He's doing some filming as well from the border. I'll be in the studio on Monday night with you, and it will be, you know, GB News. I can't wait. Do you know who I've missed, Martin? Obviously, I've missed you. But I've really missed our viewers and our listeners. Yeah. I can't wait to get back on the Your Say and have a natter with everybody about how it's been. So we've got a massive responsibility. We've got to get it right. Obviously, the Republican Party know that we're in town. They've been incredibly helpful to us. It's unusual for a British news establishment to look across the pond and say, we have things to learn and we have to run at it and we have to bring that to our viewers. This is the next evolution of this channel, isn't it? So, you know, I'm thrilled, I'm honoured, I'm privileged. It's wonderful, but I do miss you all, obviously.
Well, Bev Turner, I can tell you this, the viewers were telling me on Wednesday at Windsor they truly miss you. But from us here at the channel, from the viewers as well, thank you for what you're doing, being that bridge between Trump and the United Kingdom. Thank you for doing God's work. Bev Turner, absolute legend, and very best of luck with your show. Thank you, Bev Turner. Wonderful stuff. Now, plenty more to come throughout the rest of the show, including government lawyers have advised 150 SAS veterans not to engage with the government witch hunt. But first, here's your traffic and your travel update.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M8 westbound is restricted at junction 17 due to a traffic incident. Approach with caution and allow extra journey time. An accident on the A1M northbound at junction 45 has caused access issues. Northamptonshire's M1 southbound between junctions 18 and 16 is closed due to a collision, causing 30-minute delays. In Buckinghamshire, the clockwise M25 between junctions 16 and 17 is delayed due to a broken-down vehicle with notable tailbacks. And on the trains, Cross Country and Elizabeth Line have disruptions. For more travel news, go to GBNews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, there will be some spells of rain for some, with a Met Office warning in force across northern and western parts of the UK, and feeling chillier for all as we head towards Sunday. Back to this afternoon and this evening, though, it's been quite warm across parts of the south and southeast, but where we see this frontal system lingering across parts of the north, that's where we'll see lingering cloud and also some outbreaks of rain. And this system will slowly edge its way southeastwards, pushing more into Wales and southwest England through the course of the night. We could see some quite heavy bursts of rain associated with this feature. Remaining mostly dry across parts of the south and southeast, just a few showers clipping into the far northwest. With plenty of cloud around, it's going to be a mostly mild night, temperatures dropping to around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Then to begin the weekend, mostly dry, but there are going to be some showers. These could be quite blustery at times, particularly across the far north and northwest of Scotland. Also some just starting to push into western coasts of Wales. Otherwise, Northern Ireland largely dry. But northern England, parts of Wales and southwest England, it is going to be a very wet start with some heavy downpours expected at times. And it's across these areas where we do have a Met Office rain warning in force, so a chance we could see some impacts due to localised flooding. Across the far southeast, though, remaining dry here for longest, even some bright spells across Sussex and Kent, parts of East Anglia, and a mix of sunny spells and showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for many across England and Wales, it is going to be a very wet start to the weekend. Not feeling quite as mild as it did this afternoon, but temperatures still reaching around 23 degrees Celsius across the southeast. Through into the evening, there's still going to be outbreaks of rain. The weather warning's still in force. This system eventually pushing its way into the North Sea, but it could turn quite blustery as it does so. Feeling a lot chillier from Sunday onwards. We might even start to see some frost into next week, but it should remain mostly dry next week with plenty of sunny spells.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:40 with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, government lawyers have advised 150 SAS veterans not to engage with a government witch hunt. Let's now speak with the former SAS officer, a great friend of the show, Matthew Hellier. Matt, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your company as ever. The witch hunt continues.
Martin, it's at the moment I am sat in the middle of a wonderful town in Holland, in Arnhem, commemorating the an anniversary of a battle where the Dutch people here, you can hear behind me, we have the bells ringing in commemoration to our wonderful veterans. We have Union flags flying. We have commemoration to all of our British regiments. And in the UK, in comparison to what is going on in the UK, our government are now persecuting again our veterans. We have 2 SAS officers that have just been arrested for murder. This is just becoming diabolical. I'm not sure why the witch hunt continues. Everyone, you know, in Europe, like here, celebrate Great Britain, celebrate the armed forces, and in our own country, we're trying to prosecute them. We're really baffled by what is going on with this government.
And the lawyers are advising you boys not to engage with any of this. What does that mean? You're simply going to refuse? You're going to take an oath of silence?
100%. Why should our guys and girls cooperate with lawyers that are not backing them up 100%? Why on earth would that happen? You know, our guys are fighting for their country. They're laying down their lives. They're spending time away from their families. They're doing exactly what they love. You know, they're supporting the realm, supporting the king, supporting all of our beliefs, and they're being arrested. And the lawyers that are meant to be supporting them are just not supporting them. This goes on and on. We had this discussion 6 months ago. You know, we've had hundreds of thousands of people on the streets of London, you know, protesting against this. But still, you know, it seems to have just upped the ante. The government are now persecuting and prosecuting our veterans. 2 soldiers now that are serving, arrested for murder, I believe, you know. This isn't just, they're not common criminals. Their doors were knocked on at 6 o'clock in the morning. All of their devices were taken. You know, they are being treated like common criminals. These are people that save our lives, that give us the freedom. You know, this is our country. I cannot believe this is still going on.
Now, Matthew Haley, it also comes as a grim realisation to me. You're sat there in Arnhem with a Union flag behind you, people from another country thanking people like you whose forefathers vanquished actual fascists. Yet here we are in Britain being called fascists for raising that same flag. It strikes me as a quite dichotomy.
Complete. You know, we're being treated like common criminals. We're being treated like the fascists and the people that we fought to give freedom to our wonderful country. You know, we should be getting behind our veterans. I keep saying it time and time again. Get behind your veterans. Get behind your farmers. You know, these are the people that give us foundations in Great Britain. But no, we are, for some reason, getting persecuted and prosecuted all the time. It's having a massive effect on recruitment, retention. People in my old regiments, you know, UKSF, the parachute regiment, are now starting to think, why on earth are they there? They're going to refuse to soldier soon.
Matthew Haley, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us today from Arnhem. It's a pleasure to have your company. As ever, thank you for your service. Now, an MOD spokesperson has told GB News this. We urge full cooperation from all personnel and veterans who possess relevant information to get in touch with the inquiry team and the police. Now, for Surge some holiday sun, here is a forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hot weather continues across the Canaries. It will turn a little cooler here into next week. Plenty of fine and sunny weather for Greece and Turkey, although a bit of a brisk breeze blowing across some of the Greek islands. Lots of sunshine too for Italy during the weekend, and indeed for much of eastern and southern Spain. But we will see increasing cloud and some showers over northern Spain and northern Portugal during Saturday afternoon. It is hot in Tenerife, but those temperatures just dipping off a little bit into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
I thought you'd set up a new version of Pimlico Plumbers in London.
Yeah, my family have set up a company called We Fix London,
But we started planning that, 2 years before Labour got in. If we'd known Labour was getting in, we wouldn't have planned it. So obviously we've got to comply with the tax regulations. But anybody with any sense would agree with what I'm saying. The taxes are too high in the UK for wealthy people. Wealthy people can go and work anywhere in the world and be financially a lot better off.
And we had a non-dom regime that was basically stable for 200 years. It's only recently that it's been changed. And we're changing it and making it harder, just as other countries are making it easier. So you can go to Italy and you can negotiate an amount that you will pay. Portugal's been welcoming people. Malta's been welcoming people. All over the world, countries are saying, please come and bring your money. And the UK is saying, we're going to take all your money. We don't want you anymore.
That's right. Look, they're all encouraging sort of UK business people to come there, and it's working. If you become a tax exile in Italy, you pay 200 grand for the year. You don't have to pay no more. But the real problem is we're wasting their money, and they should be encouraging entrepreneurs to be staying. I think our biggest export at the moment is wealthy people.
So you're a businessman. You know how to do things and make a profit. If you're advising the Chancellor on how to get the money the country needs to pay for the public services, what would you be saying? Because at the moment, the tax revenues don't meet our expenditure. There is a gap. Something needs to give.
Resign.
All right, but that's not the answer.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 5:48 now. The magnificent photographer Alistair Hilton has created a stir after sharing many patriotic photos he has taken in London. And Alistair Hilton joins me now in the studio. Alistair, welcome to the show. Your pictures, let's get a few of those on screen now. They've gone around the world and back. You were at the United Kingdom March on Saturday. You've taken a look at that photograph here. It's simply astonishing. It's been around the world and back. Millions and millions of people have seen that, including, I think, Elon Musk. It looks like it's AI. It's not AI. That's real.
It really is. So many people say to me, oh, that's AI. And it's not. That really happened. That was how it happened. I walked around the corner. I was at the march. And again, I was there to cover this march. And people go, oh, it was trouble. It was a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
There were people having fun. I walked around with the crowd. You're not sort of having ages to take this picture. You're in with everybody, millions of people. And as that shot, the guy got up on that lion, and there's the shot. And it was like, thank you very much. And it went bonkers. Millions and millions and millions of views.
And I was just enjoying watching your reaction on social media the next morning after. You're like, oh, my God, my image is the top image on the entire global news story.
It really was. I sort of looked, and I'm used to seeing, Trump and, I don't know, all of this sort of stuff. And there's me and my image. It was completely mind-blowing. But that event sort of created this whole sort of patriotism, really, and it was it was something I'd never witnessed before.
That image on the screen now, I think, is absolutely unbelievable. It's, of course, the Churchill statue there, taken from behind, looking over the sky towards the Tower of Westminster Big Ben. That really does look like AI. That is an incredible image. How do you get it?
Again, that was sort of taken when it was nice and peaceful, beforehand. And it just felt like the right angle. Everything felt right when I saw that shot. It is, of course, edited, but it's not AI. That is exactly what the lens saw. That is what I saw. But then I like to give it the feel that make it look like it does there.
What you've done with these pictures, Alistair, is you've gone to an event with an open mind, with a clear lens. You portrayed something magnificent. You've captured people's hearts. You've recaptured their attention. I think you're the guest on the show today that people are most excited about. I mean, seriously. But on a serious point, this went around the world millions of times, and you were saying, hang on a minute, a lot of media outlets were nicking my image. You can go to your website and buy these images. I think it deserves a few quid. Where can people go? How can they buy these pictures?
You can buy them. You can go on my website, which is londonw4photographer.com. Just go on there, go on Photos for Sale. You'll find it there and lots of other lovely pictures. And it has gone bonkers. And I really love that people have got on board with the picture and with the feel and the whole thing. And I think I am proud of that picture. I am proud that people love it. And every time people tweet me or they say to me, wow, I love that picture, and that gives me a really good feeling.
Alistair Hilton, thank you so much for coming to see us now. I'm going to go and buy you a pint in a minute. I'm definitely going to buy one of your pictures. Thank you very much for joining us in the studio today. It's an absolute pleasure. And that's all from me today. Not to worry, because up next is Jubes and Co, the fiercest debate show in town. But for now, I'll leave you with your weather forecast. Have a fantastic weekend.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the weekend, there will be some spells of rain for some, with a Met Office warning in force across northern and western parts of the UK, and feeling chillier for all as we head towards Sunday. Back to this afternoon and this evening, though, it's been quite warm across parts of the south and southeast, but where we see this frontal system lingering across parts of the north, that's where we'll see lingering cloud and also some outbreaks of rain. And this system will slowly edge its way southeastwards, pushing more into Wales and southwest England through the course of the night. We could see some quite heavy bursts of rain associated with this feature. Remaining mostly dry across parts of the south and southeast, just a few showers clipping into the far northwest. With plenty of cloud around, it's going to be a mostly mild night, temperatures dropping to around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Then to begin the weekend, mostly dry, but there are going to be some showers. These could be quite blustery at times, particularly across the far north and northwest of Scotland. Also some just starting to push into western coasts of Wales. Otherwise, Northern Ireland largely dry. But northern England, parts of Wales and southwest England, it is going to be a very wet start with some heavy downpours expected at times. And it's across these areas where we do have a Met Office rain warning in force, so a chance we could see some impacts due to localised flooding. Across the far southeast, though, remaining dry here for longest, even some bright spells across Sussex and Kent, parts of East Anglia, and a mix of sunny spells and showers across Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for many across England and Wales, it is going to be a very wet start to the weekend. Not feeling quite as mild as it did this afternoon, but temperatures still reaching around 23 degrees Celsius across the southeast. Through into the evening, there's still going to be outbreaks of rain. The weather warning still in force. This system eventually pushing its way into the North Sea, but it could turn quite blustery as it does so. Feeling a lot chillier from Sunday onwards. We might even start to see some frost into next week, but it should remain mostly dry next week with plenty of sunny spells.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. In Northamptonshire, a road incident on the M1 southbound between Junction 18 and Junction 16 is causing delays due to 2 closed lanes. Both the A2 westbound in Kent, where a vehicle issue has closed 1 lane between the A28 and the M2, and the A30 eastbound in Devon are affected by breakdowns. On the A5 southbound near Shrewsbury, expect congestion with significant traffic delays. Additionally, the A1M northbound entry slip at junction 45 near Leeds has a road traffic collision resulting in complete lane closure. And on the trains, there is disruption on the cross-country line between Basingstoke and Eastleigh. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good evening, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Daubney and you're watching Jubes and Co. After an incredible state visit, Donald Trump takes aim at London's mayor, branding Sadiq Khan one of the worst in the world. Is this just Trump being Trump, or does he maybe actually have a point? And the government hails success with a third deportation under its one in, one out scheme. But GB News can reveal more than 800 legal migrants have crossed the channel today alone. So what do you make of all that? And experts warn that tax rises are inevitable as government borrowing continues to soar. Are you dreading Rachel Reeves' autumn budget? And America's late-night TV world is in uproar after fellow comedian Jimmy Kimmel is suspended by ABC over his controversial comments on the killing of Charlie Kirk. But did he overstep the mark? So thank you for your company tonight. My panel is a great one for you. Matt Goodwin, pollster, academic and GB News presenter, there he is, and Joe Phillips, journalist and former political advisor. But first, it's time for the latest news headlines.
Thanks, Dawn. Very good evening to you. Just after 6 o'clock. Our headlines. A third person's been removed from the UK under the one-in, one-out deal with France. Home Office sources say the man, an Iranian, has been returned to France earlier today. It follows the removal of an Eritrean man after he lost a High Court bid to halt his removal, and also the deportation of an Indian national on Thursday. Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy says the deal is providing an immediate deterrent to people seeking to cross the Channel.
This pilot with France is a milestone because it sends an immediate deterrence to people, many of them coming obviously across the water, that we will send them back, and it is our hope to see that grow over the coming months and years, because we have to bear down on the gangs and we have to smash the model effectively, and we have to ensure that those who do not have a right to be here are sent back to the countries from which they're from.
Meanwhile, hundreds of migrants left northern France earlier, attempting to cross the Channel today. People smugglers around the Calais and Dunkirk areas pushed multiple small boats out into the water at first light following 9 days of windy weather, which prevented migrant crossings. GB News understands at least 800 migrants are expected to complete the journey today. They'll be the first to reach the UK since almost 200 crossed on the 10th of September. A man's been jailed for 14 years for child sex offences against 39 young girls he catfished by pretending to be a 14-year-old boy. Stuart Latham raped a 12-year-old girl and targeted hundreds of others by posing as a 14-year-old boy on Snapchat. He preyed on girls using a fake online persona to obtain indecent images from them with a promise of cash or gifts in return, and then threatened to reveal those online if they didn't